Favorite toy truck nerds are back. Welcome to That Scale RC Show.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 134. I'm one of your hosts, Adam, alongside with Jay. Travis couldn't join us tonight, but we got two new guests, special guests with us tonight. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourselves? You want to start with
I'm Kenny.
Or Kenny, whoever wants to start.
And I own HobbyTown in Happy Valley, Oregon.
And I am Chris Trudeau, back again, visiting with the resident drift scale rally, etc., etc.
The Oregon crew, the representative
crew.
from the Oregon
old man. I'm even wearing the shirt. Old man crew.
Yep.
So you just had an event, Adam, for Scale Challenge West.
Yes.
That?
So that was 2 weekends ago. That was the Donner Roundup up at Donner Ski Ranch in Northern California, just up the hill from Cisco. It was great. I got to give it to, because I didn't get there till Saturday, the actual day of the event, but I know Elio, Dean, Don, and I think Rick, they were all up there the night before or the day before setting up a trail. And it was pretty cool because the way they set everything up is we staged in the parking lot across the street from Donner Ski Ranch. And then it went across. There's like a little side street. If you've ever been there, the parking lot's off to the, it's across the street. And then if you're following the main road, which will continue and you have Donner on one side, the parking lot on the other, there's like a little side street. He started the event right over that side street. So he went up this little hill and then it started. That's where all the rocks and slabs kind of start. And it kind of just weaved its way up and over all through the mountainside right there. And you don't realize it till you get down to the end. You basically weaved over the train tunnel, the abandoned train tunnel that runs there. So after you made it over the course, you just kind of went right back through the train tunnel and it would dump you right back at the parking lot. So it was actually set up really nice. And the weather was perfect. I think it was like a high of like 78, being that you're at like almost 7,000 feet right there. You get winded in the altitude. So being that it wasn't like 90 or, close to 100, felt really nice. And then of course, at the end of the day, once you're done crawling, you just walk back through the cool train tunnels where it's like maybe 60 degrees. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then the craziest thing was there were still big patches of snow.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So it was a trip. For how much the sun is beating down in that area, the amount of snow that was left was pretty impressive.
Is Donner the one where they have new owners that are like putting a bunch of money into it? I know there's a couple. I can't remember which one was.
No, that's Cisco Grove. So Cisco Grove got new owners. That wasn't a ski resort, and I think they changed ownership twice. The first owners that bought it were going to dump a lot of money into it. Then I don't know what happened, and then they sold it again. And then whoever the third party, since we started going there, something happened, and then all of a sudden the main store caught on fire. So everything kind of just came to a halt. So no, Donner is still there.
I know it's been around forever. I know it's a popular spot for a lot of the SoCal guys or NorCal guys to go crawl.
Yeah, no, and it's pretty crazy because in the summer it's a big hiking / downhill mountain bike area. So if you actually go to the ski resort side, you see a lot of people out on hikes. They come to the restaurant, to eat, or grab a beer, whatever, and hang out. And then you see a lot of guys bombing down, the dried up ski slopes, just coming down, on their bikes. So it's kind of like a very outdoorsy destination if you're into camping, hiking, all that stuff. So we just stayed on the other side because it's technically all BLM land. So we didn't have to get a permit or any of that stuff. We just, would go out there. But yeah, I mean, everything was set up really nice. There was a couple of these cool bridges, and the way that they actually set them up, you would have thought they built them for this run, but we just keep recycling the same stuff over and over.
Wow. Just happened to fit, huh?
Yep. So yeah, so it was a really good time, a lot of fun. And then that one was crazy. We raffled off 2 RTRs, and I think we got just over $1,000 in raffle entries.
Oh wow, nice.
So yeah, there was a good turnout. I want to say there was probably like 30 to 40 people, if not more.
I was going to ask you what was the head count for?
Yeah, I was going to say probably 30 to 40, if not more. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Nice, that's awesome. Great spot.
Yeah, no, it is, and I'm not sure, and I'm not really sure what the next event is going to be. I know Elio found out that there's a Toyota group that's doing like an overland event up at Cisco, and he wanted to try and go up there. I just don't know if it's going to be, if he's going to have enough time to really make it an official event, but he probably will be up there for that to just check it out. And then I know for sure he will be at Cantina for the Con, which is in September. I want to say it's Labor Day weekend, and he will be doing a whole Scale Challenge West booth, have some demo cars to run, all that stuff. And it's actually pretty cool because if you follow the Rubicon Trail Foundation on social media, their recent post is all tailored to the RC. They said, attention, all I think it was all 4-wheelers and kids that are into, remote control, and like all the pictures is like a collage from everything from last year.
Rad.
So yeah, they're really pushing that. So it's going to be another good time.
That's awesome. That'll be good. So how are they getting into Cisco with?
So that I don't know. And that's where everyone's a little confused, because they're saying that it's at Cisco. So we don't know, are they staging it at that parking lot? Because if you actually go, and Jay, I don't know if you remember this, when you actually enter into Cisco and you have the little, gatehouse that was in the center.
Yeah.
To the right was a parking lot. And that's actually the staging portion.
That's for like Fordyce and everything.
For Fordyce.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not sure, like, okay, are they actually staging there? And then maybe a couple of them are going to go off onto the trail, or, because we're not sure. He just found out about it, so he, wants to go explore and find out more. But yeah, I might know more this weekend. I don't know. He's been talking about going up and talking to the owners of Cisco, so I don't know if the owners are there. It's been so long since I've actually been on the premises of Cisco. I mean, we just drove by it coming back down the hill from Donner, but we didn't pull over and check anything out.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be cool even if it's just based out of that parking lot. I mean, that was still a neat area. That side of the property was still pretty cool, even though it's not, right by where the campground was.
Yeah, no, I know. So, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, I'd like to see Cisco get some sort of, back on their feet. I mean, I know if you're familiar with any of the groups on Facebook, I know a lot of people keep talking about Axial Fest going back to Cisco. Those were the golden years, and, so on and so forth. But I just don't know if Cisco will ever be what it once was.
Yeah, it's a shame. That place is pretty magical. There was one section that I haven't been able to drive, and the 2 different times that I've been down there, it was closer to the entrance, and it was that Slick Rock area by the river. It was usually like the first section of the trail you would see when you're driving into the property. I never ever did get to run any of that. There was a different Slick Rock section I got to check out that was down by the bridge, kind of near the freeway and stuff.
Yeah.
But I never did get to check out that really cool one, because there was always such a huge bottleneck of people there.
Oh yeah. There's always a huge bottleneck, and we always said it would actually be really cool to see what it looks like. I mean, could you imagine if you were like a truck driver traveling, I-80, and all you see is a bunch of glowing lights underneath the bridge?
Wouldn't that be cool at night? That section was my very first, like, when we first went there in 2016. That section over by the bridge was the first part that I got to drive. We had Ty from Tekin had met us when we had first gotten there and unloaded and stuff. And we went through this like little kind of ditch type channel gully thing, and it led out towards kind of the freeway and stuff. And then that's where we hit that section, and it was super dark out, just pitch black. And it was just fun. It was just one of the just coolest experiences, because it's Axial Fest for the first time, and you're all excited and stuff, and there's people everywhere, and it's driving at night's super cool anyways, so I mean, it's just a completely different experience than what you usually get. So it's a lot of fun.
Definitely.
Yeah, hopefully they can make it back to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how much I can actually say. I've heard some rumor mill that the Axial Fest is coming back next year. I don't know how true that is, but that's what's in the rumor mill right now.
And as far as you know, Proline is still on. Yeah,
Proline's still on.
Proline's still on.
Yeah, they're still on, and of course, a lot of people are kind of talking about that, like, is it going to sell out? Because I think they have a cap space for Proline. So now there's a lot of people talking about, because the tickets just went on sale. I want to say 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 now.
Horsemen's.
Yeah, Horsemen's. And people are saying, get your tickets now, because if they cap out, you won't be able to get in.
Wow.
And buy insurance in case they cancel it and you're you need a refund.
Yeah.
So then
refunds up to 30 days before the event. I'm on their website.
That's not bad.
No, it's not terrible.
And then you guys have a couple of NorCal We Rock RC stuff coming.
So really we have the one big one, and that'll be July 25th and 26th, Friday and Saturday. It'll be at Moon Rocks, where they're actually hosting the real 1-to-1 We Rock RC or We Rock RC. We Rock and We Rock Live will be there. I think it's called the Western Series Round 3 or something like that. But we have all the event information for the RC portion on on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. So if you go to either NorCal We Rock RC on Facebook or Instagram, there's posts with all the information, and it's going to be pretty cool because they're doing a trophy run. So obviously, first, second, and third in both classes will get a trophy, and actually, I believe it's first place. He's donating a gift certificate for one of his chassis. I think it's like half off or something like that. I'll look back at the details again, but yeah, it's going to be a fun time.
Nice. Right on.
And there's also the one this weekend too, the We RC Rock Nationals too, right? But that's in Colorado. Where's that one?
That's a different group.
Okay. I was gonna say, I think I heard Josh and Matt talking about another event this weekend somewhere. Those builds are all the rage currently.
Yeah, they are. Probably just a matter of time before we see some sort of RTR version of a moon buggy from somebody.
Right. G1 already did it years ago. It was the plastic. Didn't you have one? Isn't that what?
Oh yeah, yeah. I still have one. Yeah, that's what it was
yeah.
based on. Was the R1 cage from G-Made.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still got it.
Crazy.
So have you done any more on the moon buggy builds at all?
Not really. And of course, guess who twisted my arm into doing a 6 scale one?
Oh, geez.
Yep. The Escalade's going to get torn down and get turned into a 6 scale.
Really?
Yep.
What?
Yep. So, I mean,
you should be able to find an SCX6 somewhere locally for fairly cheap, Adam. Come on.
Well,
don't sacrifice the Escalade.
If I really wanted to, I could tear my father-in-law's apart because he doesn't run his
I was gonna say, doesn't your father-in-law have one? I'm like, you can just borrow it for a little bit. He's not gonna notice.
Yeah, he's got one
vehicle.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a love-hate relationship with the Escalade. It's a cool build. I really like it. It's just it's kind of useless for how brittle that body is.
Oh,
Because I've blown that body apart twice and I've had to like glue it back together. So I'm just like, you can't really trail it. It's kind of heavy because it's got that sound system on it. So it's like, okay, if I turn this into, because I actually drove Elios for a little bit, if I actually turn this into a buggy, I could use it and not really worry about it.
true.
So yeah, but as far as the 10th scale, no, they're still in the same spot. So yeah,
Right on.
yeah, I know. The beginning of summer, I guess. Well, summer just started, but the months of when everyone considers it summer, May, June, July, beginning of August. We got so much stuff going on that it's just hard to, pinpoint a weekend where I can sit down and wrench on any of it.
Yeah, understandable. Well, Chris, you've got a new drift car build you were working on that you showed us earlier. I don't know if that's something you wanted to show since that's kind of your recent project here.
Yeah, I've only been sitting on it for like a couple weeks compiling parts, but it's called an LP86. It's by a company called D-Like. They make some super high end drift chassis, but they came out with this sort of low budget basic. It's all like Kydex chassis, so it's a super basic pan car chassis that's designed to be like really floppy and flexible. You can go on YouTube and Google videos for it, but it's based around the Corolla. It's just the videos for him. It just shows him going around the courses with like tons of body roll, tons of flex. So this is an old body that I recycled to use on it. But it's designed to be budget. So a lot of the parts, it's got like a $60 Hobby Wing speed control, and I put a 17.5 brushless motor in it and a basic Amazon gyro and servo on it. Yeah, it's just designed to be like low budget, sort of. I can't really say that Corollas are low budget anymore because some of them are going for big money. But the watching them go around the track and everything, it's not as expensive as some of the higher end, Overdose or some of the upper Yokomo chassis. So between that and just trying to get through some crawler builds and stuff, yeah, not a whole lot on my. I've been playing with touring cars a little bit. We had a parking lot event last week at a shop here in Vancouver called Course RC, and they just set up a temporary outdoor on-road track. So I did a little outdoor on-road for the first time in a while. And the shop's kind of trying to push the Tamiya stuff a bit to try and get more people into it. So again, kind of sticking more towards the budget side of things and keeping it, low entry. But that's a good idea. That's been about it. Yeah.
It's out of control pretty quickly, just like everything
else. Yeah. I mean, and I know we've talked about it before, and I know Jay, you and I have had discussions on, just in chats and stuff about how quickly stuff changes and how, the keeping up with the Joneses and everything, at least with crawlers and stuff, things stay pretty consistent for a while. And there's not a huge, trucks will come out, but the basic platforms are still the same. But, competitive racing and on-road, off-road, whatever, that, they just came out with a new four-wheel associated. And it's like, every like 2 years you're buying a new car. We were talking about vintage RC10s earlier, and the aluminum tub was 15 years or better that they were racing it with the same basic platform. So it's the crawlers are definitely a nice escape from that, just because you can have an original SCX 10 with a few upgrades and it's still relatively current compared to.
This is a very persistent little spider. Sorry, he keeps.
You gonna go feed him to Arcady?
It was funny. I was just going, what is Jay doing?
Dude, he keeps coming over. I've put him over by the computer. I've put him over by the monitor, and he just keeps dropping down off the microphone somehow. So we'll see what happens now. Sorry, that was kind of.
We need to add another window to the video feed here for him.
Another guest.
Other guest.
It was just crazy. He just keeps working his way back over to the same spot. So, anyways, yeah.
Where's our Katie? Just bring our Katie.
No, I doubt he could see it. They don't have very good depth perception at all. So something little like that, you probably wouldn't even notice. They run into doors and walls and stuff all the time. They don't see so good with having their eyes on the side of their head like that. So it's kind of funny.
We have a new cat in the house, and was sitting here eating dinner before the show, and my wife from the living room goes, "He caught that fly and ate it." I was in the kitchen heating up food, and he was staring at the little tiny gap between my stove and my cabinet, and fly flew out, and he went and kind of swatted at it. And then, a little while later, apparently he caught it in the living room and ate it. So,
oh, crazy.
Animals are funny.
Yep. So, Kenny, why don't you tell us about your time in the hobby? Before the show, we had talked a little bit, and you had said you've been in the hobby now for about 23 plus years, and that's just on the business side of it, or just
industry side? Yeah, I've actually been in the hobby for over 40 years.
Oh, wow.
And it all started with my father. We did model railroading when I was 6 years old. And then when I was 9, that's when we started getting into RC, the old Tamiya stuff, the Striker, the Falcon, the Grasshopper, all those. And then at 16, I actually got a job at a hobby shop. And so it was more of a trains shop, actually, model railroading. So that was really cool and everything. And then I got into construction for about 12 years. And then when I went to my local HobbyTown, it was interesting. The guy I worked with at Hobby Warehouse was the old business. He heard my voice, and we kind of just clicked right away again. And he was all like, "Do you need a job?" And I was like, "In a few months, I will." My boss for construction was retiring. And so I got in it just as a regular employee for the first 2 years. And then my boss, he upgraded me to manager real quick. And I went to a different store and was managing it for about 3-4 years. And that's when he really taught me the backside of it. Because, I mean, a lot of people don't realize, you guys come in and buy things, but there's a lot to the hobby business, plain and simple. I mean, you have to order, you have to, sell, of course, but then you have all the bills and everything else, know what to keep up on. I mean, back in the day, when I first got my RC stuff, it was all mechanical speed controls. Some of you probably don't even know what those are. Electric motors, just basic brushed electric motors. No brushless was even thought of. I mean, the cool part is when I got back into the business, that's when LiPo batteries started coming out, brushless motors and speed controls came out. So I was able to actually grow with the industry as it was growing.
Oh, nice.
So, I mean, it was way cool. And so now, like I said, I've been in the business over 23 years. I've seen the industry. I've seen it go up. I've seen it go down. I mean, right now it's hard. Definitely a very hard time for everybody. Because, we're sanity. We're not essential.
Yeah.
And, and online is killing us. I mean, plain and simple. It's like, COVID, I was supposed to buy it during COVID years, 2020, and I backed out because I didn't know what COVID was going to do to us. And unfortunately, that was the best years, actually, those 2 years. But, I mean, my boss had to shut down he had 8 stores at one time, and he had to shut down all of his Washington stores during COVID. Well, we decided we were just going to play like a restaurant. And so when we did, and nobody bothered us. So, I mean, we followed COVID rules and everything like that. And, I mean, it hit well. And then when I actually bought the business in 2022, we were still doing awesome. I mean, it was still the end of COVID, but we were still doing really well. And then it was August of 23 when our industry dropped dramatically. I mean, people were going back to school. September's always been a bad month just because it is back to school and everything like that, you know? And so, and I don't think we've honestly recovered too much over it. You know, you don't get in this business to become a millionaire. You don't, you know, you do it because of the passion. And I mean, I love my job, you know, it's just a lot of hard work, and online is killing us. I mean, a lot of people, you know, like you can get it overnight. I get it. I understand, but that person isn't going to be able to help you when you run into a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like the brick and mortar people is what we need. And we're losing stores left and right. I mean, you know, we've lost like 7 or 8 stores in the last 6 months. And I mean, it's just, you know, it's the way it is. And I get it. But what I'm afraid of is people don't realize you're not going to get that help. You know, and I mean, a lot of us older guys, you know, like you guys want to touch, feel, and everything like that. And with now the generation, they're all instant gratification.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
then, you know, and then they go buying this stuff offline, and nobody has heard of it or carries the parts. And I mean, a lot of people think, okay, you know, the big brands, they'll transfer over, and they don't. You know, everything's proprietary to themselves. I mean, what really went bad was when, you know, the 2 major vendors, they went proprietary chargers and batteries. I get it. It's way safer, and I understand that. It's plug and play, but like they really hurt us in other, you know, venues, plain and simple. You know, you can't just, we could get all kinds of batteries for any plug, Traxxas, Dean's, EC3, anything. And now between Traxxas and EC3, EC5, you know, they're all making it proprietary to themselves. And I mean, those batteries are expensive. You know, when you go get, you know, batteries online that aren't as expensive, but then, okay, how do I put this plug on there? And I mean, it's just the way it is, and it sucks. And hopefully we'll make it all through this. I mean, like I said, I've seen recessions where we were making tons of money because everyone was home, you know, and right now, I mean, it's just hard. It's so hard, you know, because there's a balance there, and it's hard to keep that balance.
COVID was quite the bubble because I mean we had drag racing blowing up at the same time, and that took off huge, and then now that kind of slowly has seemed to have fizzled out. We need to have somebody on one of these days and just talk about like what happened, you know, like how it went from, you know, events with a $20,000 purse to just now it's nothing again.
I think what happened with the drag racing is like a lot of the promoters and people that were doing it, they made it like they made a point system like NASCAR and everything. But the problem is you had to be there every weekend. Okay, well, during summer, you know, I dirt bike, I camp, I do a lot of things like a lot of other people. So my RC gets put aside. You know, I might go this weekend and be in the top 3, but because I don't show up for a month, now I'm at the, you know, the bottom one, period. You know, and I mean, it was a huge hit. It was, you know, but then, I mean, we had a couple here in Portland that were doing it. And like one of my other good friends, he wanted to start his own club where you didn't have to be there every weekend. Because, I mean, he does a lot of camping and other things. And he was like, this is cool, but I can't be there every week. So it doesn't work out for me.
Right. Yeah, that's tough. That was definitely frustrating. That was something that I had dealt with because I would, you know, show up late or miss a week and stuff, being self-employed, you know, with our local drag racing scene and stuff. But then there was a lot of people that just took it way too serious. I mean, like treated it like street outlaws and, you know, placing bets on every single run. And it was just,
money corrupts.
It burned me out fast.
Right. And I mean, the nice part with like rock crawlers and everything like that is like even I'm seeing older people grab them because it exercises them.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
It's easy. You're at walking speed. Yep. And so it's like, oh, this is cool. I'm like just playing around. And I mean, as you guys know, they'll last 45 minutes per battery, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
You know, and so
3 hours. 3 hours when I go play.
Right. There you go. You know, and so, I mean, that's positive. And like you guys were saying, the rock crawlers, I mean, the cool part with the rock crawlers, it really doesn't lose value. I mean, you might lose a few bucks off of it if you try to resell it, but it's not going to be much at all. where like you get like, you know, a race car or like a stadium truck or something like that, you're going to lose the value real quick.
Yeah. Well, yeah, gosh, I mean, look at how quickly all the different models come out. I mean, you've got a B6, and then next thing you know, the B6.2 is out, and then there's a B7 the following year. And it's just super hard to try and keep up with.
Everyone's jumped on the X-ray school of business when it comes to racing stuff. And it's, when you're a government funded company and you can afford to print cars like you print money every other year, it's easy. But when you're, independent or small time, it's a little more challenging. But that's the unfortunately the rub of racing too is sort of that, got to have it, even if it's only a couple things. I wish they would do more with just like
Stock
I think
box.
they'd be far better with, or just sell like an upgrade kit package for like, $100 or $150. Here's a set of new machined, C blocks or D blocks, whatever the hot ticket is. And here's the new, inserts, and here's a slightly reef-shaped shock tower. And that's really all you need. That's really, or maybe some arms, we've kind of redesigned the arms, but you don't need a whole new chassis or complete redesign. You can still be competitive with, old stuff. You just need a few updates rather than, sell it all and buy a new car.
And
That's,
I mean, one
that you can't get rid of because everyone then wants the new ones and no one wants to buy the old ones.
Yeah, try getting rid of the last model. That's tough.
Right. That, and then they redesigned the whole model, so you can't use your older parts on the new stuff.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
not
like,
backwards
you guys are
compatible at all.
yeah, exactly. You're shooting yourself in the foot. And so it's
Yeah.
just, and then they're coming out with new cars, left and right. I mean, every brand pretty much is. I mean, there is one brand that really isn't right now, which I get. They're hurting just like everyone else. And
Yeah.
so it's crazy times. It's definitely crazy times because I've seen some huge numbers and I've seen some low numbers.
Yeah.
And then also, I still have a track in my shop also, and it's unfortunately got to go now because I can't afford to keep it going. But I mean, that's another thing is like everybody's like, oh, bring a track in. And it did well. I've had it for a year and a half and it did really well. I have a drift track, 10 scale drift track, a 1/18th carpet track, and then two 1/18th, 1/24th rock crawlers, and a 1/10th one. And it did really well, but now it's like nobody's like showing up. I mean, it's just gone downhill so fast. And I mean, you can't go. And I'm inexpensive, $15 a day, all day long.
Yeah.
And we
that's
even rent cars.
good.
You were there, Jay. And it was great. It was a great time. I met a lot of cool people, and everyone had a great time. But with tracks, it's like hit or miss. It's like we have another track here locally that's like, I mean, they're struggling just as bad.
Yeah, I saw something about him having to close early on Sunday because nobody had showed up, and
Right, and I think he's closed Saturdays now also.
Yeah. That's a shame because he's sunk a bunch of money into that place too. That's tough. I definitely didn't see it coming that the bubble would like burst when it did, and it would just go from just a handful of sales a day to a handful of sales a week. I mean, like it's been very, very interesting for us, and it's always, I mean, I don't really get freaked out because like I know our place in the hobby, and I know our hobby's place in people's lives, which this is something extra, it's something fun, it's
Sanity.
it's but
therapy.
it's also kind of like the first
Therapy.
thing that gets cut back on when it comes time to kind of buckle down and start pinching pennies and stuff, and so
Right, exactly.
it's
I mean, food comes first, period.
yeah, it's really, I mean, it's just all you can do is wait it out and survive, and then just adapt. I mean, that's one of the other things too. It's like when something luckily I've got a lot at my disposal to where, like, if decal stuff starts to fall off, I've got other ideas that I can expand on and start introducing other products and things like that. So I mean, it's one of those things, like, from a manufacturer standpoint, you have to be really fluid and flexible and continually
be able to
adjust, I mean, it's like things started slowing down, so it's like, okay, well, this is a good time for me to work on STL file stuff or hard parts, or so I mean, I've got areas that I can kind of adjust and compensate and kind of sneak into to try and pull money in from, that we haven't, areas that we haven't really touched on too much in the past. But when you're a retailer like what you are, Kenny, it's a completely different ball game, because I mean, you've got overhead and inventory, and then you've got inventory that is stagnant and not moving, and I mean, and that's just money that's tied up on the shelf. I mean, there is like you were saying, like with the hobby shop business and stuff, I mean, there is a lot involved in that people just don't understand. And I think probably one of the biggest misconceptions, and you could probably verify this, is whether or not, like people seem to be under the impression that you're making hundreds on kits and RTRs instead of, like,
And I
maybe
don't. I mean, you're 100% right.
Maybe 25%.
I make maybe 20 to 25% on kits and ready to runs, plain and simple. It's all the parts. So when you go break your cars, that's when I make 60%.
Yeah,
but
people think you can just knock half off of something and it's like no big deal, but it's like they don't understand that there is a significant cost associated with every single box that's sitting on that shelf.
And you're right, 100%. And people don't realize that. They think it's like used car sales. And it's like, dude, I don't make anything on this. Or, like you're saying, people come in, all right, you can give me like $30 off. It's like, no, you just took all my profit. And people don't get that, and it's the sad part. And so it's just, and the tariffs, those are hitting us now. I mean, that's hard. And then we can't get product. I mean, product is just not coming into the
That's what I was going to say, is it's the biggest thing is, like, it's tough when, there's something that you want that should be out or should be available, and Kenny doesn't have it on the shelf. None of the hobby shops have it on the shelf, and they can't get it from the supplier. And everyone's, what limited supply there is, everyone's all fighting for the same ones. Like I've heard stories of, like, the Losi micro buggies that came out, that there were shops that were getting. Now, once somebody clarified that they said that they thought maybe those people were paying cash money for those and paying them COD, and that's why they were able to get, several hundred at a time versus, shops like Kenny and other independent, and or franchised shops that were ordering stuff, where they were restricted on how many, if any, they could even get their hands on.
And I mean,
there were people fighting for that.
Right, exactly. I mean, like, the distributor should put caps on stuff. I don't care, I mean, it's like one of the other hobby towns when I think it was the Micro B or Micro T came out, they ended up with over like 400 of them. And it was like, dude, what the heck? Like, okay, you got 400. I might have only wanted 20, but then I only get 5. And it's like, I mean, you guys are like going with the people that have that money to put up front. And that's great. I get it. Business is business. But at the same time, you got to help the little guy.
Yeah, because that's scary. I mean, like, people could, let's say you've got yours on order, like, you've decided that you're going to bring 10 of them in or whatever. Okay. Because that roughly there's however X many people that are interested in them. The problem with that is then you've got the online retailers like A-Main, and then, even like Amazon and Horizon and stuff, where they'll have these large allotments, and you're going to lose those people that are going to go, that are tired of waiting for your stock to come in. They're going to go and get it from somewhere that already has it in stock and stuff. So by the time you actually get them in on your shelf, the hype of it's died way down, or the other thing too,
got what they wanted, and so it's over.
Right.
And like
Yeah.
you're saying, I mean, it's the online. It's like, since you did bring up some names, the cool part that Traxxas is doing now is like they will not sell it on their website for 2 weeks. Any new car, they won't sell on their website for 2 weeks. So we, all our hobby shops, get the chance to sell them up front. And that's
cool.
awesome. And it is way cool, where, it's like Horizon, I mean, they took some product away from the hobby shops that they're only selling online now. And I know Horizon's hurting. I know this.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all hurting, but I know they're really hurting. And so it's like, when you guys are like kind of going behind our back and doing all this, I mean, business is business. I don't want to say shady, but I mean, you're not giving us a chance, and that's the sad part is it's like, I mean, you guys are like, I get it. You guys are money hungry, just like the rest of us, but you're not giving us the chance really.
Yeah. That's a shame. I mean, I remember years ago, like there was a local hobby shop here that I used to frequent quite a bit and stuff. And we'd have conversations all the time about how A-Main was killing his business and stuff, and online, like Tower Hobbies and things like that. And they would offer things like, easy pay and, financing options and stuff. And so, I mean, it was like, there was all these incentives and stuff. And then, when it comes time to actually like need stuff right away, like let's say you need a can of paint or something, like you're painting a body and you're a can shy of some Tamiya paint. Like if those businesses aren't around to be able to go and get the last minute stuff from, I mean, it's gonna, once you start losing the brick and mortar shops and stuff to the online retailers, you're going to start seeing the entire scene kind of start to dry up too. It's like you're going to have people starting to get out of the hobby. It's like, well, there's nobody to get parts from here locally and stuff. Or, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
You don't have the help.
Yeah.
It's like, we're, especially with Amazon, it's like, okay, say Jay, you were like a diamond, ring specialist. So that was your career, and now you're getting into like selling Traxxas online only because it's a profit to you.
Yeah.
But then when I go, hey, this is wrong, you'll be like, not my problem. You need to figure it out on your own. And I mean, I'm just using that as an example.
Sure,
of course.
sure.
But I mean, it's like those people are not realizing that if we're gone, you're not going to have the help. And then, like you say, our industry will just disappear.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not going to have somebody who can solder a connector on for you. I mean, people would probably be shocked to learn that there is still a significant portion of hobbyists that cannot solder. Like,
I know. I'm known for my.
I was going to say, I've seen the line of people needing Kenny to solder stuff. I know,
dude, it's crazy. But I mean, it's like, think about that. It's like, you're gone and you don't, you can't put a connector on. You don't have somebody to troubleshoot your motor and ESC.
Yeah, electronics. Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, the soldering. I mean, we, I don't know, it was like 7 years ago or something. A HobbyTown had screwed up a solder job and a battery blew up or something. It wasn't my store. It was just on there. And being a franchise, they sent us all an email, stop soldering. You can solder ESCs. That's it. And like Chris was saying, is like, I'm really known for my soldering skills. I had people going, what do I sign and where? Because you're the only guy I come to. I mean, I've seen, you don't use wire nuts on it.
Yeah.
On a car. I mean, come on.
Butt connectors. But
I love seeing those pictures on Facebook when that stuff pops up, though. It is so funny.
The craziest thing I saw about a month ago was a guy, like it was an Arma, car that took 2 batteries.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh. The guy had taken an 8th scale body clip and put it on there and then just like taped it all up, right? I've never seen this in all my life. Never seen it, right? So he comes in and he's all like, dude, this just won't work. This won't work. And I'm all like, what is all this black tape? And I take it apart, right? And the body clip just literally falls apart. And I'm all like, are you serious?
Wow.
Dude,
he bridged it. He bridged it using a body pin.
Yeah. It was the craziest thing. And I was like, and I was scared for the guy. Cause I mean, I know about electricity big time. When I was a kid, I wanted to be an electrician, but obviously that didn't work out. But I mean, it's like, dude, what are you guys thinking?
That's a fire waiting to happen, man.
So-
That's
Yeah.
gonna get so hot.
Jay, I don't
Right.
remember if you. Obviously, Adam wasn't there and he hadn't seen it. And Jay, I don't remember. But Kenny has on his in a plastic case on
Oh, yeah.
his display. He has a burnt up charger and
LiPo
battery. Charger and LiPo battery that's basically like crusty shell,
Yep.
and then also to a battery lead where the lead's like touched and arced as like a warning to people with
That's
you
awesome.
know with regards
I mean-
to soldering and LiPo batteries and how like dangerous. I mean, Jay, we've raced, you know. I mean, we've known people, racers, Northwest guys who've lost garages and shops
Oh, yeah.
to, you know, LiPo fires. And, you know, that's the man, don't go on Reddit and read horror stories. Let me tell you, the RC section on Reddit is scary with some of these people. And
So what really
know.
scares me is when like they'll bring in a battery plugged into the leads and the leads just laying there. And that scares the crap out of me because I've seen what can happen, you know. I mean, with the charger and battery thing, though, it was really funny and it changed our policy and everything back. This was like 12 years ago or something. So a 25-year-old or something, mid-20-year-old bought an RC car, battery and charger. And we just sent him on his way. So he goes home and he puts it on nickel metal hydride settings. Okay, chargers can't really do that now. They are too smart for that. But he sets it on nickel metal hydride settings, puts it on his carpet floor, and goes to sleep. Wakes up to a fire. Right? Okay, so then his mother comes in and says, "I'll see you in court." And I didn't own the business at the time. A lot of people thought I did just because of how I present myself.
Right.
But it was like, okay, we'll see you in court. It wasn't my fault. Should have read the instructions. And like I said, that's changed my policy. I don't let anyone leave without knowing how to charge a LiPo battery. But it's like, dude, like, you know, it's stuff like that. It's like Horizon had to come not too long ago because a boat completely burnt down. A real boat burnt down because they just charged something wrong inside the boat. I mean, I don't know where that all went. I don't know what the conclusion of that was, but it was like crazy because, I mean, I see a few reps a year, of course, but he just showed up out of nowhere. It was like, wait, what are you doing in town? And so, but I mean, it's, you know, it's like the little things and people don't realize that.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, how are you going to know if we're not here?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm a latchkey kid. I'm Gen X. We're the last ones with common sense. And I'm sorry, people. Whoever I just offended, I am so sorry. But it's the truth.
No, you're right. No, absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's the truth. Because I know, because I watched CKRC go out of business. And they actually had a short stint with there was a battery company that reached out to them that were like, hey, we make generic batteries and we'll put your logo on it and all this stuff. And them being a hobby shop trying to find other ways to, get something that's affordable. Because that seems to be the common theme with everybody is they want the cheapest, but cheapest doesn't always mean it's the best. And they had a short run on these batteries and it was hilarious. I shouldn't say it's hilarious. It was hilarious the way they presented it to like people like me and Elio, but they sold one of them and the kid plugged it in his garage and caught his workbench on fire. I mean, the whole garage didn't go up in flames, but he started a fire. So of course, Dina freaked out and was like, we can't sell these. She thought it was like strictly the battery. And we're like, could have been the way the kid set it up. Did he, something happened to it? There's so many variables that it could be, don't jump the gun, but she just freaked out. So anytime we were at the shop, they'd be like, do you guys want any batteries? You can take any of these ones because we cannot sell them because we're afraid that, and I still have a couple of them to this day that are still, they're fine.
Dang.
I mean, I have batteries. I fly is my major thing. And
okay.
I have batteries I've had for 15 years that are just as good as they were. And a lot of people don't realize there's only 3 LiPo makers in the world. That's it. And everybody just slaps their names on them. That is all. I mean, I don't know how long you guys have been in this, but I remember when like a 3-cell 5,000 milliamp battery was over $100.
Oh yeah.
Now they're 65.
Super
I mean, I know you can get other ones for, cheaper, but I mean, they're now 65 and everyone's all like $65. I'm like, try 10 years ago when they were over $100.
Dude,
You're complaining about 65 now.
4 cell batteries, when I first got into the hobby, I mean, it was nothing for a 4 cell to be, 230. I mean, it was.
I remember paying close to $100 for a matched set of 6 cell NIMs for like 3,000 milliamp for racing like my RC10s back in the day, T2, whatever. And yeah, I mean, Tekin BC 112As and 112Cs, and it's funny, we were talking about chart. I mean, I puffed a lipo on Saturday racing in the parking lot. I pulled it out of my car, and the one side of the case was nice and swelled. And I'm good when I charge my stuff. Like I don't push my batteries, especially when I like crawler stuff. I've jokingly told people like, oh, you don't charge it like 20-25 amps. That's like serious racer charging, but
yeah, and guys, don't do that.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
5,000 milliamp battery, charge it no more than 5 amps.
Yep.
Yeah. Keep it under 10.
It's not worth it.
But you just never know. I mean, I balance charge every time, but it's very interesting how far the technology has come, but also just how simple they've made it. But like I was talking to someone the other day who's got they got an e-bike, and like I was discussing with them, like I'm like, can you take the battery out of it? Because like those things, I mean, there's you can go on YouTube and look at like e-bike fires, and those things just like randomly bursting into flames. And just or cell, yeah. My cell phone's feeling a little warm. But yeah, and that's the thing too, though, is there's and Kenny knows, I mean, I've been around a long time. I've managed and run a hobby shop too. I've been a customer of Kenny's for a long time. We've been competitors and had shops. We've always, worked well together in terms of, yeah, for sure.
They got it. No, he's got it.
Yep.
That's something I noticed that they do here too. There was a local hobby shop in Marysville here, and then one in Everett, and they would call each other up. Hey, do you have this? I got a guy looking for it, and send, I mean, just really, really cool. And again, that's something that people are going to lose, is that kind of help and interaction,
And that's, and that my boss used to get mad at us. I mean, okay, so we didn't carry something and we'll just say Michael's dead. And like me and, my other workers, we'd recommend that. And he'd get so mad at us. And it's like, dude, what you don't understand is that person's going to remember us. Just because they didn't buy from me today doesn't mean that, Adam's going to, looking for something and he just says, hey, Adam, go see Kenny at HobbyTown. He's got what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to scratch each other's back, or I mean, we're all going to lose.
Yeah. Well, and that creates a really good customer experience too. It's like if you're willing to send somebody to a competitor, that creates a really, really good first impression with somebody, So I mean, that's
right.
Yeah.
And it also
I don't have it doesn't mean someone else doesn't, and I'm not gonna keep that to myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It also cuts down on the scammers too, because I remember somebody coming in and Kenny and I joke about this. We reminisce all the time about somebody coming in and saying, "Oh, I can get it from this store at this price," and I'm like, and in my head, I'm like, that's below what Kenny buys it for. Like, there's no way Kenny's going to sell it below for what his cost is on it. So, and again, I'll call him or text him and be like, "Hey, I've got someone here who's claims that you're going to do this." And they're like, "What? No, like that's not a thing." It's like, sure, okay, go get it from Kenny for that price. Like, I want to wait for that phone call to call back. It's like, hey, this guy came in and tried to tell me that you were going to sell it for the same price that he basically told me Kenny was selling it for. So, and we've had, knock on wood, it's been a little bit since, but it's a small community down here, and there's another hobby shop in town that had for a while was getting a lot of theft and break-ins, and word would go out that they got broken into, and Kenny's the first person that I would message or send info to on, hey, keep an eye out for this stuff. And everyone would kind of reach out and I've been around long enough that I have the numbers to the shop owners in town. So, put the word out and texting people of like, hey, be on the lookout for this stuff, because, you never want to see your, another shop in town, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of inventory to lose. And especially with, going back to Kenny's earlier discussions about, those are some pretty small margins, and that's a lot of money out of pocket when those things disappear, and insurance isn't wonderful for trying to compensate for that kind of stuff either.
Insurance
So
really isn't worth it, because then your premiums are going up. It's like,
you screw yourself in the long run.
Right, exactly. It's like when we did have, knock on wood, a few break-ins, back in the day, it was all like, no, just pay for it out of your pocket, because now that, $200 piece of glass is going to make your premiums go up $200 a month. And it's like, it's not worth it. It's like you were saying, Chris, that one shop, I mean, they probably lost $100,000, within 2 years of stolen product. Easily. I mean, they were always getting broken into.
That's how the shop in Marysville is here. It's it's in kind of a real, I don't know, not a great area town, and there's a bar next door. It's like kind of a little, like, very old strip mall and stuff. But I mean, that guy, it was like, I haven't talked to him in years, but I mean, there was a period of time where it was like a weekly thing where he was getting broken into. And I mean, crazy stuff, like people taking a saw to the door, below where the doorknob and stuff is, to push the door in. And then somebody tried going through the roof with a pickaxe at one point. I mean, just crazy stuff. But you kind of made it sound like you've not really been a victim of theft too terribly bad.
I mean, I do have cameras in the store and everything. I mean, the things that probably get taken that I can't prove, and I can't really say how much of, is like paint and stuff, because I'm in an all-around store, as you know, Jay.
Right.
I models, I do a little bit of model railroading. I do I mean, models are huge. I got one of the biggest paint selections in town. And so, like, I know people are like walking in and taking paint out, and there's nothing I can do. And I mean, luckily that the margins on that are pretty good, but it's pennies. It's like, I have a toy display, and it's like, if a kid takes it, it's like, whatever, that was like 2 cents to me, where I do make 99 cents off of it, but it was only 2 cents. So it doesn't matter to me as much. And I mean, here, luckily where I'm at now isn't as bad for, drug addicts and stuff like that. But I mean, when we were at a location a couple blocks up the road, it was way bad, and we know what to look for, and we have safe words, and I mean, the downfall is like, I have to board up, or, I have gates in my store, and that's really sad. I mean, it's kind of like, liquor stores and stuff. I mean, they all have gates and stuff like that too. And it's like all of I mean, growing up, we didn't have those worries. We all left our dang homes unlocked. So-and-so will be over later, no big deal.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just where society's gone.
Yeah, you're just lucky you're not in California.
Yeah, I believe you
100%. I mean, that's just like a common thing, and like it gets more and more frustrating for your everyday consumer. Like for me, so my least favorite store to go to is Home Depot, but every once in a while we have to go. And it's like, and the reason why it's becoming my least favorite is because they get ripped off so much. The littlest, like, simplest things you need to run in and go get, you got to go now find an employee and have them go open it up for you. And that takes time, and everyone knows that time is money. So it's like, if you're now, what used to be like, okay, run in 5-10 minutes, you're in and out of the store with, what you need. Now you're in there for almost 45 minutes because the attendant's not in that section. Then you got to hunt them down, or you got to go up and you ask, and then they're calling over the radio. Then nobody shows up. Then you got to go bug them again. And at that point you just walk out and say, forget it. I might as well just order it directly, from the website, and just have it delivered to my door, because there's I'm already gonna be waiting that long for it anyways. So it just gets frustrating, because it's like, you walk in and you're like, okay, now the gloves are locked up. You can't even just get like a pair of gloves because they're locked up. I mean, I understood like doing the batteries and the tools and stuff, but I mean, it started getting just like the most ridiculous stuff. I mean, even today I went in to grab some oscillating blades for our guys, and I'm like, okay, here's what I need. And you're like, they're all locked up. So I had to go find somebody, and it's like, are you kidding me? So I don't know.
20 minutes later.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. And then as far as like the RC world, for me, it's kind of weird because I fall into a weird, I'm pretty much, because where I live, I'm stuck with ordering strictly from online because
I was
I
gonna say,
had
didn't your local shop close, Adam,
Mhm,
not that long
mhm,
ago? Didn't they
mhm.
go? Did
About
they
2
retire? Or did they close because of financial hardship?
I think it's more retiring, but
Okay.
Talbot's in San Mateo was the first hobby shop I ever went to, and they were kind of like an everything store. I mean, when I say everything, I mean they had the one section, because I think it was two brothers that owned it. The one side, they actually split the store down the middle at one point. They sold bikes on one side, and then it was Talbot's cycles, and then it was Talbot's Toyland next to it. And then, I mean, you can get anything, models, toys, um, you know, anything from soccer balls, footballs. They had a whole hobby or RC department, and all that stuff. And then they finally closed due to cost of everything. The sales were going down. They weren't able to keep the rent going. So they just finally said, that's it, we're done. So then that forced me to go to J&M, which was in San Carlos, the town right over from me. And that was great because they were more of your traditional old school hobby shop. So you went in, they had a lot of paints, models, some train stuff, RC. Uh, the RC side was very basic. It was a lot of like basher style cars was what they would keep in stock because that's what a lot of the kids and whatnot wanted around around my area. But it was great because anytime I needed paint or battery parts or whatever, it was something I could just easily go walk right in, and they would order anything I needed also. So if I was like, hey, I know it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks before I can even get to this anyways, just I need this, can you guys order it on your next order? Then they finally closed, and I think it was a lot just had to do with probably the same thing. Just sales started going down, and then they were at the age where they're like, all right, we're ready to retire. We own the building. We don't need to do anything. So it's sad because the building's still sitting just vacant. There's paper in the windows, and it still says J&M Hobby House on it, but there's just nothing going on. So for me, the next closest is down in Santa Clara and San Jose. So that's another 35 to 40 minutes down the road. And I was actually unimpressed the last time I had to go down because I was like, okay, I'm out of paint. I don't want to order it online because everything's going to be a couple days. I just need to go pick up something that's in stock. And I drove down to Sheldon. Was it Sheldon's? I can't remember which one I went to first. It was the Sheldon's or NorCal Hobbies. I went to one of them first, and they had nothing. Like I was like, you guys got to be kidding me. And they're like, oh yeah, we're sold out of this, we're sold out of that. We don't have, and I don't know when our next order's coming in. And I'm like, okay. So I went to the next one, and luckily they had what I needed. But that's kind of been the song and dance I've had, at least with those, I guess you say local shops, is I've needed something in a pinch, and I'm like, they got to have it. It's a generic part. It should be something that, breaks on everybody's car. Like one of them, I needed rod ends. So I'm like, okay, I'll go down and get rod ends. I mean, come on, everyone's got to have rod ends. And they're like, no, we don't have any of that stuff. And you're like, you got it. Like, so what happens when people break stuff? Like, you just don't, offer the parts. So, but yeah, so I don't know if it's only a matter of time till our area kind of just, closes up. I know the Sacramento area has a lot of hobby shops, from Fast Track to a couple hobby towns to RC Country, and they're all still doing really well. So I don't know. Sometimes I wish I lived closer to some of these stores because it'd just be easier to go in and get stuff. But I've just kind of learned that I know what I need and I know what I want, so I just order it online and just have it sent to my door.
And that
Adam's
works
that
out
guy.
well for you, in that sense. And a lot of people don't realize, especially with paint, is you guys have to pay a hazmat fee on it, where
Yeah.
I don't pay the hazmat. And so I can get like paint and rocket engines, and so it's like you guys are actually getting a better deal by buying it from me because you don't have to pay the extra money for all that stuff.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that. And I mean, a lot of people will be like, oh, what's the $2 also? And I get that. But I mean, we're not all, the Joneses that have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sort of like Adam. Like I'm in an isolated spot. I'm probably about an hour to the closest hobby shop if I needed something. So it's, you know, I'm also one of A-Main's team drivers too, so I get a lot of stuff through them when I need it. But yeah,
Right.
it's rough. I mean, there's nothing here locally. I mean, and plus I remember like going to Bellingham and needing like a 32 pitch pinion, and they had no idea what I was talking about. So it's, you know,
That's bad. I mean, the Everett, you probably had been to the Everett HobbyTown then, right?
oh yeah, I love that place.
Right. Okay. So my boss owned that also, and that was the
Oh,
last
wow.
store he just sold. Well, he already had a buyer for it and everything. The manager was going to buy the store and take it over. They could not find somewhere to go get a building at, period. And they couldn't stay where they were because that mall, something's going on with that mall. I don't know all the
Yeah,
details,
it's getting
but
empty.
it was like, they looked for 2 years to find a spot and they couldn't find one at all. Like my boss, he owns his own like strip mall over in Everett in Kennewick and stuff. And so he knows that stuff. I mean, he owns real estate here and there. And like he did all his avenues. Like he knew real estate people for 30 years and they're like, we can't find nothing.
Wow.
Or the price was just
I was going to say, well, probably the bigger part of it is the price is astronomical and way beyond what anyone's willing to pay for.
Yeah, that's
a couple
here.
thousand square foot space.
We have a lot of space, but yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculously overpriced, and so
that's what
why
happened
everything
to
up here just sits vacant.
Right. I mean, that's what just happened to a Wilsonville store, the HobbyTown there is like, she was doing well. And I've known her for 18 years because I helped her open the store and everything. And the final straw was they doubled her rent. And she was like,
where was she at? Was she at the
Wilsonville?
Was she at the outlet area, that big mall there, or somewhere else?
She was over by Costco and Target.
Oh, okay.
She's in a little, like a mini strip mall, but it wasn't the big outlet. It wasn't the outlet mall where all the shopping and stuff is. Yeah. Yeah.
No, but I mean, and she'd been doing it for so long and she was just like, they doubled my rent. I'm done. And she sold everything the week before Christmas and was like, hey, Ken, you can have this, this, and this. So she gave me some stuff and was like, I'm done. Now, I mean, she's really happy, less stressful. I mean, now she works for Oregon, and very happy, and she gets to spend more time with her kid. But I mean, that was her dream for a long time. Well, her husband's dream for a long time. And it's like you doubled the rent, doubled it, and she was paying more than what I pay now for 2 spaces. And I mean, I'm closing one of the spaces.
Her space is what, 2/3 your space?
It was like 2/3 of my store, the actual store, not the back room, but the store.
Wow.
And it was
you've been there, Jay, so that's yeah.
But it was like, I think $16,000 where I'm, right around 9 for my store part. It was like, dude, are you serious?
That is
somebody was like,
stuff that you have to sell to.
But I was in there the other day with Kenny and somebody was commenting about going by there and the space that she's in is empty. And he's like, I couldn't help but be tickled the fact to see that space still empty. The fact that they basically doubled the rent and haven't gotten anybody in that same space, to do it. And
that's a hell of a gamble, huh? For a landlord.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's not, but part of it before back in the day was the weed business priced a bunch of stuff out. Cause I remember when there was a track locally that, it was an indoor track with a small hobby shop and they basically got priced out because, well, it was a couple of things, but one of the reasons was, they were basically offered, 1.5 times or 2.5 times what they were paying because the space was a warehouse and had retail and the weed business was willing to pay, top dollar for a space like that. That kind of stuff sort of petered off, but it's the same kind of thing. Like prices keep irking up and people are accustomed to paying it. And there's sort of this expectation that like, we can still charge that even though, the times don't necessarily reflect, people need to come back down on their expectations, but they're still living high on pie and wanting to charge those higher end rents for it.
But they don't care, because actually it's a tax write-off. So they get like half their money no matter what at the end of the year. So it can stay empty all year long and they're still going to get half their rent no matter what. That's just how the taxes work. And it's like, wouldn't you want somebody in there though? I mean, what if you lower that dramatically, and then like my lease, I have 3 years, and then they upped it, not by much. I think it was like 1% or something. And then I go like another 3 years and it gets up to like another 2% or something, and so it's like, and we started out, I think it was around $7,000 when my boss first got the place, and now I'm around 9, and it's like, and that's not so bad because I only have like 5 years left, I think, on this lease, if that. And so, they don't care. They get paid, so it doesn't matter to them.
Do you know what he was paying for the spot when you guys were over by Target? Do you remember what your rent was on that little tiny space?
I don't, because that had 2 factors, because that was a strip mall. So that had a factor of a base rent, and then
triple net,
AAA, of course, and then also he had to pay percentage off of all sales.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like, strip malls are totally different from like, I'm in a strip mall, but there's totally different when it's that way. It's like they asked us at one time to go do a little booth at Clackamas Town Center, just our local mall, and they couldn't
across the street. Literally across the street.
Well, no, we were at Johnson Creek at the time. So
okay.
But they couldn't come to an agreement, because at the end, when we already agreed on, okay, it'll be this month, this price for 2 months, just for the Christmas season. And then they come back and, oh, well, it's going to be an additional 10% of sales. And he was like, okay, well, I can't even pay an employee to be there to try try and get more business. God. It's ridiculous when it comes to that stuff. If you don't own your own
business
property,
is scary, man. Like, people have no idea. It is so frightening.
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting hearing that point, because at least around where I'm at, it's always funny because they're putting in all these new, and they have like a big plaster billboard, more retail space coming in. It's like, how much retail space do we have that's not even filled, and you're building more?
Right.
Like, and also too, like what isn't there in town that you need that's like retail? Like, how many do you need? Like 4 Foot Lockers in town? Do you need like how many lids stores do you need? I know, sorry, Adam, I know hats are a touchy subject for you, but
hats are not a touchy subject for me. But I mean, lids is at our local mall. I mean, like, and that's what's funny is, I grew up where it's like, okay, you needed to go get something. You're like, all right, I'm going to the mall because you got, you got this store, you got that store, and you do all that. There wasn't the whole, I'm going to the one random store over here for this, and then you got to drive all the way over here for that. But the thing that I've noticed, it's been a real, and I don't know if it started in your guys' areas, but here in the Bay Area, the latest and greatest are these pop-up. I mean, they're pretty much taco stands. That is the latest and greatest in our area. You drive down any street, you'll find at least one corner. There'll be a pop-up tent. They'll have their little generator going. They'll have their little rotisserie thing going. And there'll be like 10 or 15 people buying food. And you're like, how come the city has not come down on any of this? Because, I mean, you got this poor restaurant, having not only overhead of their staff, but overhead of the building, and having to have like all these, like, the health certificates and all that stuff. I'm like, did they have to go through the same stuff? Like, I don't know how this works, because it's like now the latest and greatest anywhere. Like me and my wife, we were driving around doing errands 2 weekends ago, and we just said, all right, we're going to count from here to wherever we were going and back, how many different ones we counted 15 just in our little trip. And I'm like,
and these isn't like food these aren't like legit food trucks. These are like literally like people with an easy up and a table.
Yep. There's a handful. There are a handful that get the truck and or like a trailer. But like there's one down the street, and it's the weirdest thing because it's not. So there's a street, El Camino is like the main road, and then we're up like probably 12 blocks from that, and they're like in the middle. So it's like not like you're on a beaten path where there's like, oh, you're gonna get a ton of traffic. So it's weird that it's there. But we had to run out and grab stuff, whatever, 8, 9 o'clock at night. You drive by, they got 20 people sitting there, and you're like, is this like, I don't know. It's to us, it's just kind of weird. Like
wild. I mean, it's just, I don't know if the city is like turning a blind eye to it, thinking like, maybe they're selling like a conditional use permit or something to be able to do that? Or
what's funny is in our area, even the construction sites, it's crazy. The actual food trucks are starting to like, disappear, because now we'll be working and all of a sudden this this red 4Runner shows up and this lady gets out, and next thing you know, the whole crew's over there and they're buying like all this stuff out of her cooler and her little, warming tray out of the back of the car.
The tamale lady.
Yeah, and you're like,
The
you gotta be
tamale
kidding
lady?
me. And then you feel bad because you're like, okay, here comes the food truck like 20 minutes later, and he's like, honking the horn and nobody comes out. And you're
I
like,
mean, there's all these
Right.
other businesses that are paying property
But
tax and
it's
everything
like-
else and
and
employing
it-
people
and that's
that
what
are
I'm-
living in the community. I mean,
and that's what I'm waiting to see what happens is, when are they going to crack down? Because it's like, you're creating this like, like unfair circumstance in the ecosystem, and eventually it's gonna,
there is kind of that weird modern hippie element that is really into things like that. Like a lot of certain city governments and stuff are cool with, like, oh, it's artisan, or you know what I mean? Like they really celebrate the smaller businesses like that, but they're thinking short term, not long term, where you've got established businesses that have been around forever that are supportive of the community in turn supports them, and then you've got all these I mean, even like the health department issues and stuff, and like not having like plumbing and water, and I mean
me, that's the biggest thing, because like there's some people, I mean, like I've asked a couple of my buddies, like, hey, they're like, oh yeah, dude, that's where you get the best food. And I'm like, I'd be so scared that I would get sick.
dude, cross contamination and stuff from handling different foods. I mean, that
and then what do you do? Because it's not like it's not an actual establishment. You can't go after them. So I mean, it's like, it's just, I don't know.
They sneeze or something. I mean, what, they've got hand sanitizer, but I mean, like, I'm still not cool with your hands not getting rinsed off, and you've got hand sanitizer, smelling hands, handling your food. Now that
it's just it's really crazy.
Wild.
You mentioned Home Depot earlier. There was some people, I guess I look at it two ways. Well, two. So one, Adam, when you were talking about Home Depot and you were talking about food, like I was at Home Depot the other day getting stuff for the house, and there was some dudes there with a same kind of thing, with a truck and clearly selling like tamales out of the back. But the other side of that too, though, is this day and age, these times, and Kenny alluded to it earlier with everything, like people are hustling to try and make money however they can. And like I can totally understand and respect people who are trying to like hustle and make it. And yeah, while I agree on the the implications of taxes and other stuff to to help local government and fellow citizens, I also can respect like the desire and the need to hustle and make a buck and survive.
Oh yeah, I'm not
I'm not discrediting that at all. What I'm just getting at is you're creating like now somebody else who has gone through all the stuff, like
you're stepping on toes.
Exactly. Because it's like, okay, put it in the hobby perspective. So like, Kenny's got his store and he's got to pay, taxes and like, the overhead for having all the stuff. And then you get some like Joe Blow that's like, you know what? I'm going to buy 12 models. I'm going to sell them out of my garage and I don't have to worry about any of this. And then now you're creating this, I'm
going to go on Amazon, buy 20 cheap cars, mark them up $20 or $25 and sell them, list them on Marketplace.
I mean,
that's a weird thing is like, okay, so we here in Portland, we're known for like food carts and everything. But like Chris was saying is, I know he was probably at a different Home Depot, but my local Home Depot, I mean, there's guys out there like selling fruit.
Yeah.
And like,
I saw that too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, do you actually, I mean, how I mean, are they paying anything to whoever, the property management or whoever for using that space? And then I get it, I totally get it, and I've bought some fruit from them before and it's good fresh fruit. I mean, I wash it and all that, but it's like, how can you guys get away with this when there's like a food cart right around the corner selling the same stuff? I agree with you 100%.
And all the hoops that you have to, I mean, I've had some friends that have had coffee stands and stuff, and the amount of hoops they have to jump through with like, you know, health department and stuff like that. I mean, like, that's a serious deal. That's what blows me away with what Adam's talking about. That's
And
wild.
it is. It's like my friends, I have two really close friends, and they work we have an OLCC. So you have to have a liquor license here. You also have to have a weed license here, right? And I know some states you don't. And it's like, you know, people have lost all that crap over the stupidest little thing, but it's like they're there for a reason, you know, for your safety. And so you guys can just get away with all this crap. How is that? Like, I mean, maybe that's what us four should be doing, is going to Home Depot and selling fruit. You know, if I don't have the overhead, I can just sell it at whatever price I want, and people are buying it. I mean, what the heck?
That is the
Like,
frustrating thing. It's like when you do try and do it right, you are kind of penalized. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's certain things that I like, that certain steps being made to kind of legitimize some of these small businesses. Like, for example, something I thought was really interesting. There's a guy up here that makes chassis, and I think he has like Cut Sand to make everything for him and little visors and stuff. And he had posted the other day that he's now a J Concepts dealer. I was like, this guy is like a little nothing nobody, but he's a J Concepts dealer. He's not even a brick and mortar shop, you know? And so it's like, okay, is that, yeah, the guy's trying to hustle, and that's kind of, you know, some entrepreneurial spirit that he's showing by, you know, trying to incorporate J Concepts products into what he offers, which is fine. But as far as I know, I don't think he has an online store. And it also kind of is like a weird commentary to where the hobby's at now, that established companies like that would be willing to let somebody become an authorized dealer when they're just barely, you know, like a fringe business to begin with, you know. I mean, just really, really strange. But like our business here goes through Shopify, and one of the cool things that Shopify has done to help make things easy for us, but also keep everybody on the up and up, is they file your sales tax for you automatically. They collect and file it with every sale, which I think is great. You know, you don't have to come up with, you know, your quarterly payment or anything, you know, this big amount of money that you've got to pay and budget for, you know, but they just do all that now. But it's like, it's the little guys that, there's so many like little garage businesses and stuff with RC where, you know, they don't pay taxes, you know, they don't, you know, and they're just kind of doing the hustle thing. Yeah. And it was just really strange to see. Like, I mean, I remember there's been avenues that we've tried to pursue to bring in certain product lines and stuff to be able to sell in our store, and some serious hoops you had to jump through to be able to do that, you know. And like for a long time, it was like, you know, you had to, especially with like Horizon, for example, you had to be brick and mortar for
you have to be brick and mortar,
you know, and
you
like
have to prove it too. It's like there's another company out there that I love dearly, you know, but they are willing to, like, if I wanted to do something out of my garage, just say I don't own the hobby shop and everything, just say you want to do something out of your garage, they will sell to you. I mean, what's really interesting though is like, I don't see, I mean, and I could be wrong, but I don't see J Concepts doing something like that. They're a smaller company. And so I'm wondering if he's just trying to use J Concepts' name and then buying the stuff off Amazon or wherever, Temu or wherever, and then trying to just sell it under J Concepts.
Or is he, what comes to mind for me is he like, did he get some kind of a team driver deal? And you're not supposed to resell your,
I don't know. It's weird. I can't imagine the hobby being in a state where Jason Runa would be like, okay, cool, no problem. You know what I mean? Like it was really strange.
I mean, he already has a pretty big corner on the market. I mean, I've met Jason in person. He's for a guy who, you know, started with like a single body and has blown up to what he is. Like, you know, hats off to the dude. He's come a long ways from where he started. But that seems a little.
It was weird, and like my
unless companies are getting that desperate to try and get their stuff out there, but like
the company's sketchy, and the guy that owns it's really a weirdo. You know, he has some really bizarre social media posts and stuff. But even considering that, the J Concepts thing looked pretty legit, you know, because he had like tagged him in the post and stuff. And and the whole reason I was bringing it up is because of how, you know, with us talking about kind of the state of the hobby right now and the difficulty it is for retailers and stuff, you know, like, it makes you wonder, is this something we're going to see more and more of, where like Scalar Fab is going to be a J Concepts dealer or something like that? I mean, I know there's like certain instances where like I'll have like a handshake agreement or something with another vendor and be able to buy stuff at dealer cost or whatever to be able to build like our display vehicles and things like that, you know, or stuff for myself personally, but not necessarily anything that would be for resale. And so it was just one of those things where it's like, okay, if that really, the J Concept situation with this guy really is legit and that's the case, is this going to be another nail in the coffin of the brick and mortar retail stores, to where now we're giving dealerships to home-based businesses and stuff, you know?
Well,
I mean, so Jay, I have a question. You're with Associated, right? You're a driver, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and I know you can't go into too much detail, and I understand that.
I try and be as open as I can.
Oh, right, I got you, but I understand business. So, like, if Associated came to you, I just don't get it. So, I mean, if Associated, your team driver, Associated give you like 5 B7 bodies, we'll just say, didn't you sign something where you can't like sell that stuff?
Me personally, with Associated, I don't have it. It's all a handshake agreement. Like I've never signed a contract or anything with Associated. Originally, Brad Geck was their marketing guy, and he had approached me almost 7 years ago, I think now, and asked me if we would jump ship from HPI and HB to AE. And it was just a handshake deal and stuff. And it was basically like, you know, hey, please don't sell your stuff, things like that, you know, and like if you do, you know, and I find out about it, obviously we're done, you know, like that was kind of the conversation, you know, like it wasn't anything like really set in stone,
official,
like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. Because I mean, like you were saying, if this guy's like a J Concepts driver, and so I'm just trying to wrap my head around that, because
it was the weirdest thing, man. Like it was just one of those things that I came across it and I was like, how did this happen? Like what is the story here?
I had to like,
and it's not like your area doesn't have distribution problems, because there's hobby shops out there. Plus you've got Tacoma RC, that's obviously Scott Brown and those guys run, and you've got Die Hard, and those guys I'm sure probably have, you know, connections. I don't necessarily know I don't think those guys have a shop per se.
No, they don't.
I mean, but I mean, Scott's definitely a heavy hitter, and they, you know, those guys run, you know, J Concepts tires for dirt. So you would think that they would have a pretty good angle on distribution, not to mention the hobby shops up there that can probably get, you know, J Concept stuff, unless you're in like a you know, a hobby desert where there isn't anything and you're trying to, you know, be the local supplier. But, you know, I know this guy's like, I know if it was you and you're up on the island, Jay, I totally get it. Why they would, you know, you're the only guy on the island selling. Like I could see that.
Right. Now, so this is what I was going to bring up, because I've noticed this in the one-to-one truck world. There's a lot of people doing the drop shipping. So they'll be like, oh, I'm a distributor for this company. But they don't actually have any of the product. You're just buying through them, and then the company
treating J Concepts or whatever as a fulfillment center.
What is it, like Teespring or whatever, where you basically do the Teespring thing where people order, you design shirts and you just
fulfillment or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting, because I mean,
I'm
not super familiar with affiliate programs, but I almost wonder if that's more like what an affiliate program would be, where it's like
I don't know if that's exactly an affiliate program, because like, for instance, there's this guy in the diesel truck world, Scoville Motorsports. He actually does not have a shop. He just has he's a fulfillment center, so you order through him, because anytime I've ordered parts, it's never come from, like, it's never said Scoville Motorsports on the return. It's always been wherever it came out of. And I've
There's
always thought,
Casey headlights. It would have the Casey headlights return address on it or something.
Wow, so it's all just drop shipped. Interesting.
So
Well, that's kind of weird though, because most dropship companies will actually have your business name and your name on it.
well, so here's the thing. So it'll say Scoville Motorsports, but it'll say that it came from whatever. Like, so for instance, I can only speak on a couple of parts I've ordered. So I've ordered a lot of kryptonite upgrades for my truck, and the 2 upgrades I've ordered through him, they show up and it'll say Scoville Motorsports, but it says the exact address where kryptonite is located.
Oh,
So it's
okay,
kind of
okay.
it's kind of weird that I'm just like, okay, so that's a little, it's a little strange. But then I just realized, if you think about it, some of these people, like, that's just how they, I guess, make their living. There's no, they can't afford to have everything sitting on the shelf, so they drop ship.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess he still has some sort of control over how much he knows that he can actually send out, because he's always constantly posting on people who's like asking questions like, oh, who has a leveling kit for this, or who has this lift kit, or who has this part, or whatever. He'll be like, we got all this in stock, ready to go. And you're like, well, how could you say you have it in stock if there's, you don't really have a shop? So,
Right.
I mean, I know he has a handful of stock that he keeps in his garage because he's shown numerous pictures, but you can only keep so much in your garage. So I don't know. I just think that maybe in the RC, I'm sure there's got to be a couple people that are like that, because I've noticed
Yeah.
just finding parts on Amazon. It's kind of funny because, like, you'll be on Amazon and you'll look up a part and you'll be like, oh, look, it's available, and they can, ship it out to you, whatever. It may not be the 2-day because it's not a Prime thing, but they can ship it out to you. But then when you start reading further, you're like, oh, this is coming from, a HobbyTown. This is coming from so-and-so hobbies out of whatever. So you're like, okay, so they're just using Amazon as a platform to get it out there.
Right.
And then it's shipping out of whatever,
Wherever
store.
they can get it at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and now you're starting to see Horizon's name appear on stuff on there. Yeah. It's definitely in, like, the affiliate stuff and the I know Jay, I know you and Travis have talked about the like the sponsorship deals in terms of how sponsored drivers are sort of killing the local track scene too, because they just go straight to their supplier instead of buying from the local hobby shop.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, the sponsored driver thing, I mean, it's just the whole contracted customer thing is really
that's the word I was looking for, is there's so much of that too nowadays.
Mostly at shops with tracks, with like a lot of competitive racing and stuff. The
Right.
shop here in Marysville had a track, and they don't race there anymore, but one of their biggest sources of income was tires. On
Mhm.
race day, it's like, okay, what tires are everybody running? Okay, I'm gonna run inside the shop, grab some, and and then all of a sudden, once they started handing out sponsorships left and right to anybody, I mean, it started drying up his business. And like, that was kind of like the first like screw that got put to the brick and mortar
Local scene,
retailers. Yeah. And then now it's slowly, it's turned into like allotment, like what Kenny was saying, with like, kit and RTR allotment and stuff. And I just, do you think of all the people to try and protect the dealers, I'm surprised to hear Traxxas implementing those steps that you were talking about, which I think is fantastic. That aside, when it comes to thinking about other manufacturers and distributors and stuff like that, you don't necessarily need answers if you don't want to, Kenny, but do you feel like they really care about the hobby shops anymore? Or is it one of those things where they are clinging on for dear life so hard right now that they're worried about themselves, not so much you guys? Like, I mean,
think I agree with your statement. I believe they're trying to get the brick. I believe one specific company is trying to get the brick and mortar out. And I mean, they, you know, supported us and everybody for so long. And now with everything they're doing, I mean, I really think everybody's surviving on their own. They're all trying to just survive. And I get that.
Yeah.
But I feel like things are getting shady with a few different companies. And it's like, you guys are trying to push us out. I mean, you know, and it's going to be
They're
sad.
literally cutting out the middleman.
Well,
Yeah,
it's more of a margin for them for direct sales, and then
Right.
the stuff that they are selling marked down at dealer pricing, they're making up for that by huge volume because it's going to places like AMA and stuff like that, you know, and RPP
Right.
and some of these bigger retailers and stuff. So I mean, they're not losing anything really by giving you guys the finger, you know. I mean, it's just
business.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, as harsh as it sounds, I think that's what it boils down to.
I mean, I personally, in my personal opinion, and some people may or may not agree, but I think when A-Main merged with HobbyTown, I don't think they, knowing what I know now, I don't think they were actually 100% for us. I think, you know, I like A-Main products. A-Main's great. I get great margins with A-Main.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's like, you know, HobbyTown as a whole is suffering like everybody else. I mean, and it's just the way it is. I mean, honestly, maybe 10, 15 years, who knows if we'll even be around. I mean, not just, you know, me, but I mean, hobby shops, period. I mean, unfortunately, I believe in my own opinion is COVID was that thing that was like, hey, can everybody just live at home? And I think that was a big test. I mean, you know, not to get political or anything, but you know, you got your hand going over here, but what's this hand doing over here?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what COVID was about. You know, is to try and shut everybody down. And I mean, if you look at the big picture, it's like Joanne Fabrics. You know, they just like they're gone now. I mean,
that's wild. That blew me away. I couldn't believe it.
And it's way wild because I mean, shoot, you know, I'm almost 50 and Joanne's has been around as long as I have.
Yeah.
Maybe longer. I don't know. But I mean, it's like that was a huge company. And for them just to go bankrupt like they just did, it's like, wow, what is really going on? I mean, it's online is what's killing us. But I mean, another thing too is a lot of people don't realize, okay, tomorrow we all lose online. All of it's gone. You know how many people would just go crazy? I mean, with us, you know, us four right here, we grew up, we were outside kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we weren't on all our phones and all this stuff. Yeah, we had video games, but it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, I was
just discussing. I don't remember. I was just talking with a friend about that. It's like you knew where everyone was. It might have even been Kenny, but you knew where everyone was because there was a pile of bikes in the front yard.
Yeah, but I saw that. Yeah, you know, and it's like your butt better be home when the streetlights come on, and if it isn't, you better have made the phone call. And I mean, we all were within, you know, a mile of our house, and everybody knew everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, back to it, you know, it's like a lot of people don't realize the internet shuts down tomorrow. Like I have one vendor that takes faxes. That's it. Everything else is online. Wow. And I mean, you'd lose it all.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I was talking with one of our subs about that because he was asking about a house that we just finished up. He's like, hey, he goes, how much of this house is run based on the internet? And I said, well, this house does have a lot of apps that help, you know, run everything. But I said, you could walk right up to the panel. It's still going to work. You can walk right up to the keypad. It's still going to work. Yes, you lose the usability of like, oh, you're out and about and you want to turn something on, or, oh, if you're walking through and you have the app on your phone, you lose that. He goes, this other contractor I work for, the whole house is internet based. He goes, and the internet goes out at least once a week. And he goes, and they're like pissed. And I'm like, why would you ever build something like that? You can't, like, it just, to me, it doesn't make any sense why you rely so much on one entity. Like there should be multiple backups. And I think, you know, like with what you're saying with the whole, everyone being so, you know, everything now is like the attention span. They've said it that like all the social media has created this like 30-second attention span to anything that's going on. And at one point, I even think stuff like this, the the podcast or whatever, I think eventually they're going to kind of dwindle out too, because most people don't pay attention more than like the first 15 minutes. They're like,
it's like a minute and a half. If you
Yeah.
don't have your attention in a minute and a half, forget it. That video isn't worth anything to anybody.
Yep.
So all of you listeners that have made it this far, congratulations. You're either really bored or long car ride, or you just like to hear four old guys, or you like to hear four old guys reminisce about the good old days.
Yeah.
That's another thing is like when I went to convention a couple of years ago, it's like I'm old school. I'm sure you guys are too, and it's like it was YouTube. YouTube was our go-to back in the day, plain and simple. And I mean, they were all trying. I mean, we had a guest speaker at one of those conventions, and they were trying to explain to us that, okay, you guys are the older generation, and YouTube was your thing, but you have to get up to TikTok, Instagram, everything else now. And it's like, and I mean, I do a little bit of that stuff, not a problem, TikTok and stuff. But I mean, it was a learning curve for me because I was used to this one thing, and it's like, and if you're not up to it, you're going to be gone. I mean, that's just how it is.
Social media is so intertwined with the RC hobby that you have to be versed in both. And there's so much to learn. Like even guys like Brad that, like, for example, Brad Geckett Associated, he's been with them for over 20 years now. And even like guys like him, I'll ask him questions, like, when's the best time to post this? How do you increase engagement? He's even guys like him that are really, really versed in social media still don't have all the answers, and so it's like everybody's trying to kind of fumble through the dark and learn all of this stuff and like when to post and how, this is too many posts in one day and this is the correct. I mean, there's so much that you've got to learn that it's just, it's
a science. It's a science in itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's just wild how interconnected it is because all of these communities in RC are somehow tied to social media. And if it wasn't for that, I mean, I think about our business, we're online exclusively. The only advertising that we do is just our posts. We don't pay for advertising or anything. There's a very select few of influencers that we'll send stuff out to. But really, that's it. So, I mean, like you guys were saying, if there was no internet, I mean, it's just we would be done. We'd be dead in the water. I mean, it's just that's our revenue. That's everything, and that's
no
something that could very
no
easily
one reads
go away.
magazines anymore. I was going through some stuff the other day. I mean, Car Action was 150, 200 pages, and Kenny was talking about his. Kenny was talking about, back in the day, like, stuff was mail order. Like, I remember flipping through RC Car Action. At the back of RC Car Action was a 2-page Tammy's ad, and Tammy's Hobbies in Beaverton, which is one of the oldest independent hobby shops here in Oregon, was mail order. And, they're still standing. It's still it's run by the Sun now, but
they're doing okay like everyone else.
Yeah. They've had to pivot. They're like Kenny in a sense of, they have a little bit of everything. They have models, they have trains, they, RC stuff, planes, all that stuff. And, but I remember like they were a huge, mail order stuff. Sheldon's Hobbies, Stormer Hobbies, who's Bob Stormer. Who's
God, I haven't heard that name in a while, man. I forgot all about Stormer.
I'm still buddies with him. He's out of Montana. I think he's out of it, but his shop's still going. He still has a shop in Montana. Good, I think. Good. I think he's still ripping. But it's definitely. You would think too that it would reach with the technology and with videos and stuff like that. Like what was the I think it was Nick Watlett there was a video that was posted and had a bunch of hits, and it was It was a pit stop. I think Travis brought it up on one of his show podcasts, but it was a nitro pit stop, and it was I don't know if it was Truey or somebody, but a car 8 scale came into a pit, and they grabbed it, fueled it up, and threw it down, and it was picked up by who's the exotic car lady? I can't think of her name. I'm sure everyone listening to this is screaming it out, but she's got a huge following on Instagram and YouTube, and she gets all these like
Supercar Blondie lady.
Yeah, Supercar Blondie.
Okay.
And she had like retweeted the video of like that like pit stop. It was literally like a 3-second like nitro pit stop, and it had been viewed like several hundred thousand times, and it was like, this is cool. How can I get into this? And you would think, that stuff like that. Like I'm surprised there isn't stuff on like Netflix. And I know I'm friends with Lefty and the RC and JQ and all those guys, and that's a different kind of segment. But you just kind of wonder if like Netflix needs a series, if it would help promote, to try and get RC out to the masses in terms of, like a series or a sport. I mean, Jesus criminy, people watch hobby horse competitions. Like that's not.
I know.
I would be much more entertained watching, an 8 scale race, provided that there was, that was understandable and people could explain what was going on. If it was
like good, like live RC coverage, then
I mean, back in the day, there was I don't remember what channel was on for us, but I mean, there literally was a local airplane guy, RC airplane guy, that would like they'd pay.
On PBS.
PBS.
It was on Channel 10.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. But anyways, he'd do a thing every weekend, every Saturday or Sunday, one of the 2 days, and it'd be a 2-hour thing where you're watching people fly RC airplanes. And then to go back to the magazines real quick, it's like one thing is COVID killed a lot of those magazines. And I have a lot of older customers, and the downfall is like everyone who would come in and Kalmbach was like, we're not shipping magazines anymore. And it's like, okay, whatever. Well, then I have the older customers that are like, how do I get a subscription? I'm like, it's all online. And they're like, I don't have a computer. I don't know how to use a computer. Like I say, the older folks that are older than us. And it's like, you just lost all those people because you went online only.
I refuse to read magazines online. Like I won't subscribe to an online. If it's not a paper magazine, I won't pick it up and read it.
Right.
It just, for me, a lot of it is like the size of the text and stuff like that. I mean, I'm 48, so
right? Yeah, we can't see anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just I miss all of that. But it's weird because the hobby is definitely changing right now. We're seeing a big shift, and it's been from post-COVID. But the other thing too is like, it's not just the shift to online and stuff like that, but the way that social media has impacted our customers too is another thing that's really interesting. And I don't know if you get approached much by people, Kenny, but there's one of the things I've noticed is everybody wants to be an influencer now. Everybody wants to have a YouTube channel. Everybody wants to make money doing RC stuff. And that I've noticed too has really shaped our customer base as well, because there are a lot of there's a few people that are doing it right, and doing a really good job and stuff. RC Driver Online, Competition X, RC Girl. I mean, there's several that are doing a great job. But there's all of the other people that are very self-important and self-promoting, and it's crazy how it's created like this superstar mentality within our customer base now, of where it's like, oh, you should be giving me this because it's good exposure for you and things like that. It was wild, because we saw sponsorships being something that was earned, and then
It was
sponsorship
exclusive, earned but very exclusive.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It was a big deal, and it was a lot of work.
Yeah, totally. It meant something, you know. And then now we're seeing that kind of even dissolve a little bit, and more the social media influencer is taking the place of the sponsored team drivers.
Right.
It's interesting. Like we'll get hit up a lot, you know, people wanting stuff and everything. I don't know if you have people that approach you saying, you know, hey, will you cut me a deal on this and I can do videos and, you know, try and promote your guys' shop. And okay, yeah,
I'm an unofficial sponsored Kenny driver.
I don't normally do that stuff. I mean, I'm known out there, you know, through a few different platforms and stuff. It's funny when somebody comes in, like I'll probably get somebody to come in and tell me, hey, Kenny, I saw you on this, you know. And I mean, I've been through a few of them, you know, not necessarily as formal as this kind of is. Not that this is really formal, but you know what I mean, you know. But I mean, it's like that was one thing with my ex-boss, Dave. He was like, no, don't do sponsorships because they just screw you up, you know. And I'm not saying, you know, everyone's out there like that. But I mean, today's society, there is, you know, oh, do this and I'll do this. And it's like, okay, cool. I got one video of this. Why didn't I get 15? Why didn't I get 20?
And 9 times out of 10, it's empty promises anyway. It's a lot of empty it's a lot of lip service of what I can deliver, and it never gets delivered.
Exactly. And so it's like, and so I just don't deal with that stuff. It's like, no, go make your videos. That's cool, but don't involve me.
Yeah, I wish I would have had somebody way back that would have been in my ear saying, don't go down the sponsorship route. Don't start sponsoring people. Don't have a team or anything. We were so convinced when we came into the hobby that, like, if we're going to survive, we need team drivers at the tracks and stuff, and we need to sponsor people and stuff. Because I came from moto, and that was the culture with moto and stuff. But RC, it's just, it's kind of a different animal, you know, as far as that goes. And it's not as professional, and people don't deliver. And you have people now that, you know, with sponsorship, it used to be so result oriented and stuff, and now you have people that have deals that don't even necessarily compete or race or do anything, you know. And so it's like the landscape has just shifted so much with RC, and a lot of people are saying the same thing as like you are and myself, where we're really kind of in this like very uncertain time right now, where just everything's changing. You know, we've got employee turnover at manufacturers that is really kind of unprecedented, that we haven't seen before, you know, where we've got guys that have been designing the cars that we've been buying for the last 10 years, not necessarily being treated right by these bigger corporations, and they're leaving. And so now those positions are being filled by people that aren't as experienced, or even worse, possibly not as passionate about the hobby. And so they're not going to look at the deals like, I don't know. I shouldn't say I hate to pick on Proline, because I kind of just don't care. But like Proline, for example, it's like you can see when a product, like some of their 24th scale bodies, for example, you can tell when somebody has designed it that their heart's not into it, because, like, for example, the steering wheel will be like super high and look really funny, like they did on their on the FJ that they had done, for example. But I mean, it's like you can tell where these products are coming in, where it's like, well, man, what is that? You know, like, why do we have this? You know, and I've seen people do that with even with Associated releases and stuff, you know, and it's, you know, the turnover, the social media revolution, sponsorships, the COVID bubble. We're really in this unprecedented and uncharted chapter right now of this industry, where nobody really knows what's going to happen, you know. My heart really goes out to you for, you know, the what you've done there, especially with like the hideout and stuff, that is no small effort. You know,
No.
that is a lot of love and hard work, that especially like the crawler courses that went into building that stuff. None of that stuff.
And that wasn't volunteers. That wasn't I mean, Kenny did some stuff, but like the larger 18th and 24 scale, like that was done by other people. That wasn't because they wanted to do it.
You know, like you're still saying, Jay, I mean, that was 3 months though to get the back room where it was, you know, and it's like, and you're right, it was a lot of volunteers, you know, but it's still, they had to give up their time. We had to give up our time, you know, and you're right. I mean, it takes a lot. And with tracks, it's either a hit or miss in the long run. I mean, like we're saying about the other, you know, track locally, I mean, he's struggled for the last 2-3 years at least, you know, and I mean, I've had customers come to me and be like, you know, I have to give you credit because no risk, no reward, you know? And I mean, you know, it was great for a year and a half. And unfortunately, I do have to close it at the end of this, you know, this weekend. But, you know, it was a great experience. You know, would I do it again? Maybe, but I do things a little different. But I mean, now it's like, unfortunately, this doesn't work. I need to close this down or I'm going to lose everything. You know, and that's
you got to adapt, and good for you for recognizing that, because a lot of people get so emotionally attached to something like that has a lot of, you know, blood and sweat and tears put into it, and they will let that sink the ship, you know. And that's, you've got to be flexible right now with everything that's going on. And I don't know. I feel bad. Like, I wish I could have made it down there more. Like, it's a shame that it's such a long drive for me. And now I'm like super bummed out that I didn't make another trip. And I'm sitting here thinking like, well, I wonder if I can sneak down this week before you know, it's the end, just, you know, one last time to be able to go and check it out, enjoy it and stuff. But I feel so bad for you, dude. I mean, that's kind of where I was going with this, is more than anything. It's rough, you know. You took a chance on something, you provided an awesome service and a really cool environment for your customers, and built like a community around it with like Chris and the guys showing up on Sundays and stuff. And that was really cool, being able to come down there and experience all of that, you know, and that camaraderie and stuff.
Our insanity.
Dude, but that was a great day, you know. Like, that was one of those days where it was just like, man, what time is it? Like, whoa, they're going to be kicking us out of here pretty quick. Like, you know, I mean, it was one of those days where it just gets away from you and you're having just the best time ever, and you don't want it to end. And, you know,
you don't have to worry about, the world just disappears. It's like when I fly an airplane, it's like the world disappears for that 15 minutes. And I mean, that's kind of what you were going through there, is like,
it was killing.
We didn't have any worries in the world right now.
Yeah.
You know,
and
then
just lap after lap after lap. And just, it's a shame that people, you know, stuff like that is drying up, and that people aren't going to be able to experience that, you know, because
I mean, and one thing I've always said too is like, you know, and this is the downfall big time, is like, if we don't keep kids in the hobbies, we might as well all shut our doors. And I mean, that's the downfall, is like, you know, everybody's going to online, and I know there's race games and all that crap, but I mean, it's like, you guys, you know, I get a lot of parents that come in and be like, I need my kid off the freaking tablet or whatever for, I don't care if it's an hour, please, I need him to go outside, do something, you know? And I mean, that's the sad part, is I really am seeing less and less kids. And it's like,
I think it's gaming and sim racing and stuff is, you know, I mean, even moto, you know, you're not seeing, like with motocross and stuff where I'm from, you're not seeing this big young crowd coming up through the ranks. You know, it's just action sports and stuff aren't appealing to kids anymore. The being outside thing, and RC is really tough too. Cause I mean, when you think about it, you know, this hobby is not really for kids in a way, you know, like, it's necessary, and everybody identifies the fact that it is necessary, because you have to have that new generation in order to keep it growing and keep it going, you know. But we're not having that. You're losing the accessibility to tracks. You're dealing with people that aren't interested to begin with. and you're, I don't know. It's just, it's weird. It's the first time I haven't been in a hobby very long, just since 2011. It's the first time though where myself and other business owners are all kind of coming together and having the same conversations of, like, what's going to happen? Like, where is this going? This is like the first time that I don't feel secure in our business being here 5 years from now. I don't, and some of this is really big brands too, that you're having these conversations with. And it's, the average person doesn't see it, if things are slow. I'd actually seen Adam, Scaled by Chris, he had made a post about how much the hobby has slowed down too, and it was interesting because, like, you hear it from me, when you and I talk and stuff like that, but it was interesting seeing another one of your friends mention that how much things have slowed down and stuff. And that was just kind of one of those, like, another like confirmation, like, okay, yeah, this really is happening, and it's not just us, it's everybody.
The other thing though with him, and I don't know Scale by Chris, but he was one of the early guys into the 3D printing stuff, and now with that becoming more full circle and more people having that in their homes, and with the online stuff, the fact that's it's made everybody be able to to do stuff. And I know that there was something, I know Josh touched on it in his Scale News, that like Etsy's changed their policy on like how people like sell or list like 3D printed files or 3D printed stuff that has to be like original designs. Like
it's even like Shapeways. Like you can't get anything off Shapeways anymore either.
Yeah.
But some of the Shapeways guys, I can't remember his name right offhand, but I mean he sells on AMain, or he sells to AMain. And so you can still get Scale by Chris.
Yeah, Night Customs too.
Yeah, and so, but it's interesting how, back in the day, you could get all that 3D printed stuff almost anywhere. And nobody had them in their homes. And I mean, that's another thing, is I'm seeing a lot of people bring in homemade projects, which is great. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, oh, well, where'd you get that motor? Amazon. Where did you get the servo for this? Amazon. It's like, well, I'm right here.
Yeah.
You might help now, yet you didn't buy anything from me.
Yeah, and people don't,
and I mean,
that doesn't register with them at all. Like they don't, that most customers will probably never even think in those terms, like it's your time isn't worth anything to them necessarily, like it's just, I don't know. The people are very,
and I think, and to go back to the social media stuff, you're scrolling through stuff. I mean, we've all been guilty of it, the doom scrolling, and you end up on a rabbit hole on YouTube or see something, and then instinctively it's you dive into Amazon and you start searching for stuff because you went down some like rabbit hole, and suddenly Amazon's obviously the it used to be eBay was the place everyone turned to. Now it's Amazon. Everybody's everyone's going to Amazon to find stuff. But
I mean, that's what's killing everybody, not just our industry, but I mean, that's killing everybody.
Well, and it's killing customers' expectations too, because like with everything that I do, for the most part, it's all made to order, because vinyl has a shelf life. It can shrink if it sits on the shelf, and a kit that's a window decal kit isn't going to fit the same 3 months from now as it is the day after I make it. So I mean, the Amazon has warped people's perception that this stuff just materializes and gets shipped out. They don't understand, that it's like, hey man, like it's going to take a couple days for me to do this. And then I'm the one that's going to package it out and send it to you and stuff. And I mean, it's
and you're getting a quality product where like, I mean, just for instance, like Triple X Main, I mean, they just mass produce their masks, for instance. And it's like with you, well, hey, can you make this like this? And you're probably like, yeah, can, not a problem. I'll just have to change this little piece, and bam. And so now I have a complete custom piece, but like you're saying, I have to have it within, a couple weeks because of the heat or whatever, because it does shrink and all that stuff, and so And that's what people don't get, you know?
Yeah, they expect it to be, next day turnaround and stuff, and they don't understand that. And it's really funny. I mean, we even have a disclaimer on our website that says, any, vinyl material that's printed can be up to 2 weeks fulfillment time, because it's all made to order. And then you've got a queue of people, hopefully, if business is good. So it's interesting. People don't think about that. And every once in a while you'll have like that one guy that'll speak up for people on Facebook when a brand's getting bashed, and he'll be like, hey man, a lot of these places are just small mom and pop outfits, or a guy in his garage and stuff. Cut them a little bit of slack. They're on Amazon and stuff. So I mean, there are people out there that get it, but the bulk of the customers don't. I think it's the guys like Chris or Adam and stuff that are like very much connected and enthusiasts in the hobby that realize that these things aren't made just magically, and they know the effort and stuff goes into it and everything. And the average customer just, they don't know that, nor do they care,
Right, exactly.
And unfortunately that's also the same attitude that they have about shops with tracks closing up, or even just shops closing up, period. It's just, it doesn't, I don't know. Amazon has ruined a lot for this industry. There's definitely like things that have helped me, because like, for example, like when it comes to like packaging and stuff, I don't deal with like the volume of where I need to order packaging from like Uline, like a box of 500 bags. It's like, no, I need 100 bags or 50 bags, and it's
Right.
like you Amazon's great for stuff like that, and for little businesses like me and everything, and when you were talking about getting hit with the tariffs and stuff like that, I thought it was really funny, because like, it's something that we haven't really touched on too much with the show or anything, but it's really funny, especially in our industry where almost everything is made exclusively overseas, where people are totally cool with the idea of the tariffs and stuff, and they're like, well, we just need to start making that stuff here in the US. It's like, well, wait a second. I mean, who is
That
going
would be awesome.
who in the United States is going to mass produce these for us?
Right.
And who in the United States is going to mass produce like the scale, for example,
Yeah.
even if they make that decision now, like, okay, well, we're going to do that. We're going to have that made here. There's a hole in the market now. It's too expensive to get overseas because tariffs and whatnot. So we're going to do that here. Nobody's understanding that
it's going to take 5 years.
Exactly. You've got to train personnel. You've got to get a facility. And not only that, you've got to somehow obtain financing now. Where are you going to get a business loan in this economy to where you can be and convince the bank, like, I can do this better and cheaper than they can in China,
No.
And that's what people aren't understanding right now. And I'm very fortunate. We haven't been hit super, super hard as far as price increases and stuff like that. Thank God.
And neither have I, really.
Good. Yeah, that's cool. I was curious, because I know that like it seems like some of the tracks and stuff has been a little more expensive. Like I think we've all seen like Vanquish, their post of increasing pricing by 10%, and there's been some other companies that have done it too. But so far, I haven't noticed like a really big impact with the tariff thing on the retail side. It's more just supply chain type stuff. It's it's the packaging materials, it's the circuit boards, it's the little Bluetooth receivers, for example, that we do with our stereos and stuff. Nobody makes that here. So it's like the tariff stuff is kind of hammering more like supply chain issues than the retail side of it.
And you're right, it is more supply chain. So we can't get that product because it's not here. But I mean, I have seen a little bit of increase here and there, but it's not so bad. Like I just had a car go up from $90 to $105. That's really not that bad. Same great car. I stand behind them big time. An airplane that I sell a lot of went like $20 up, but I mean, it's not really that bad. You know, I mean, the little stuff's going to be okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, and a lot of people don't realize, I mean, I'm not big into the whole, I don't know a lot about tariffs, but you know, when he did 150%, you got to also minus that already 75% China was already hitting us with. So the tariffs didn't go up 150%. They went up like 50%. And people don't get that, you know, but I mean, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day.
Yeah, it was just interesting. We had spoken briefly about it before, you know, we started the show and stuff about how it's impacted certain things. So I was just curious, you know, what you've seen on your end versus what we see on our side of things.
I mean, on average, it's a couple bucks, you know, I mean, that's about it, really. You know, and like I say, it's probably in packaging or shipping. I mean, one thing a lot of people don't realize too is like, we don't have shipping containers. I mean, I know a lady that builds them and she can't keep up. And it's like, well, that's part of the problem. It's like, I have a couple other friends in longshoremen's, and they're like, Ken, I've been laid off for the last 3 weeks because there's no ships coming in. And it's like, and they're higher up, so they keep their job no matter what.
Sure.
They're like, there are no ships. It's been less and less ships in the last like 3 months. And I mean, it's because of all the crap that everybody's going through. Best way to put that.
Yeah. No, it's wild. It's I don't know.
And like you say, a lot of people
I'm like speechless about it a little bit because it's like it's just things have changed so much, and it's just such a strange area that we're in, and it's like I would feel better if other people weren't kind of freaking out a little bit too, you know, like in the industry and stuff. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. I mean, the whole key to surviving this is just adaptability and longevity, you know. I mean,
showing up.
You know, and you're doing it. As sad as it is to see you having to take the steps that you're taking right now, you know, with losing the drift track and stuff. It's a smart move. I know it hurts, but
and it does. I mean, I don't know if you saw the post that we did put up, but I mean, you know, it is hurting us. It saddens us. Because we made it for a family fun thing. Because I mean, the other tracks around, you know, they're all professional racing, and I'm okay with that. I never wanted that. I know some way cool professional racers, and I know some really jerks that are professional racers. And so it's like I didn't want. When I first got into the industry, it's like I met a lot of the jerks, and it was like, dude, you put one pant leg on at a time like I do, right? And, you know what I mean, Jay. I mean, you've been around, you get it. And so, you know, it's like I made it family fun. That's what we needed was the kids.
That's awesome.
You know, and we had lots of kids coming in, and it was great. You know, but like you say, times are tough. This is what we got to do, and like you're saying, at least I'm smart enough to be like, okay. Can't keep kicking a dead horse or we're going to lose everything.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day too, you know, it's not, because I've had conversations with Kenny, it's not for now, it doesn't necessarily mean it can't come back, or it can't come back in a different way, or, you know, when the lease is up, a different building and a different, you know, situation. But, you know, in current situations, you know, it's what's called for, it's what's needed. But you know, it's not I mean, I talk about it with my business partner all the time. Everything that we encounter, my business partner and just discussions with Kenny, because we're friends. In addition to me being a customer, like Kenny and I are friends and have been friends for a long time. And you know, you learn, and everything is a lesson. Good, bad, or indifferent, everything you walk away from should be a lesson. And you know,
it is.
and it's not necessarily, you know, never going to go down that road. But like Kenny said, I would, you know, if I do it again, I'm going to do things a little bit different, because you take take the good and the bad, and you learn to adapt those things. And that's, you know, that's the crux of it. And, you know, just, you know, again, Kenny and I have been friends a long time, and I've worked for my fair share of hobby shops and managed a hobby shop. And, you know, for the people listening and or watching this show, you know, is, you know, at the end of the day, we're, you know, as much as we like support your local hobby shops, have conversations with those people. And, if there's stuff or products that are feasible and that, that you think that they can carry, or, I know Kenny orders from A-Main. Very rarely will I go on A-Main and order something versus like calling up Kenny and ordering it from Kenny and going down to the shop and picking it up myself. It's the same. I might have to wait a week. Nothing. I'm not a racer, so I don't need anything tomorrow. So I don't need that, drop ship stuff. But if it's something that you can wait on and you can afford to, not have it next day and not have that instant gratification. I get it. Obviously, if you're trying to cram for something and you need that part, before the end of the week, even Kenny's been good about, trying to get a special order in or trying to get something in, faster. But, talk to your local hobby shops and work with those people and support those people. They're getting the same spot, the same stuff from the same places you can, especially when it comes to, places like A-Main or Horizon or HRP or those guys. There's places out there that, that they're ordering from, that you're ordering from, and support the middle guy. Support the middle guy.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think one of the best things, honestly, that A-Main has ever done for brick and mortar hobby shops was making ProTech stuff accessible. Like their batteries or tools, things like that.
Right. And EcoPower and their house brands, and I mean, there are like some brands you guys can't touch whatsoever, just because I'm a hobby town, so there's certain items I hobby towns can only get, nobody else. But I mean, their margins are great, and like Chris is saying, guys, go out there and support your local hobby shop, please. I mean, one day we're going to probably be gone and a lot of people are going to be sad about that, plain and simple. And so I get instant gratification, but if you can take that extra few days, normally it takes 3 days to a week, most of the time. I mean, there are shipping issues here and there, but go talk to your local hobby shops and see how they can help you.
And don't be like ridiculous about stuff. They don't need to order 15 sets of Vanquish wheels. If you're going to special order something, get it, get a couple or get something that you think, people are going to.
Yeah, it's okay to test the waters.
But as someone who's ran a shop, I totally, made mistakes ordering, thinking that I needed to have, 2 of everything on the shelf. And, there was a ton of inventory that just sat and never moved because it was unnecessary. So, understand that your local hobby shop can't have everything on the shelf. And they do what they can to, have the, like Adam was saying earlier, having some of just the basics. But, most hobby shops, you can generally feel them out, but, have conversations with them and, see hey, what does it take to do a special order? Or, I saw something that, products coming out. Can I pre-order something or get it? Can you get it for me? That kind of thing. Those little tiny things go a long ways. But you've got to be able to have to have a hobby shop owner who's receptive, and Kenny is absolutely receptive when it comes to, stuff like that. He has a huge following. He's, hugely supported in the community, and, he has loyalists like me that order from him, but Kenny knows I'm an equal opportunity spender. I'll buy stuff from, I try and spend my money at all the shops in town. I don't just exclusively, shop one place or another.
And that's
so, you do have to be mindful.
Because some shops will have different things than I carry. Don't have a problem with that. Or I'm going to have different things than other shops. So, I mean, guys, just try and support as much as you can your local hobby shops.
Yeah, and a lot of times too, for those that are listening, when you do place a special order with a hobby shop, I mean, chances are it's going to arrive in the same time frame that it would have been if you would have ordered it from, RPP or A-Main or something. So, I mean, at least give them the chance, because otherwise, we're going to be losing tracks left and right like we already are. And I mean, at least the hobby shops that are still around, if they're still in business right now, it's because they care and they're probably a really good shop and knowledgeable. You know, I think that the economy's probably weeded out most of the like fly by nights and stuff. So you're going to have like the guys like Kenny and stuff that have been in the business for a long time that, you know, are going to, that are into the hobby and will take a risk and bring in, you know, a product line that you think could be a good fit for them and stuff. So, I mean, just interact with them, shop with them, do everything you can, because once they're all gone, nobody really knows what's going to happen, because it hasn't happened yet, but it's can't be good when it does. So,
Right.
Adam, have you talked to JJ's?
No, and actually, it's funny you bring that up. And I'll make this quick because you know we're getting at 2 hours.
Yeah, we got to get going here.
Actually, that was my first stop when I went on my excursion for looking for a couple parts. I figured, okay, JJ, when I used to go to JJ's when he was in his first location in San Jose, he was like that guy that wanted to have everything on the shelf. So he had like, you know, the cars, the hop up parts, and then anything that wasn't on the shelves, he had in boxes, you know, in storage. So he'd be like, just because I don't have it out on the shelf, just ask me. I probably have it back in a box. So I was like, okay, I want to support, you know, some of the guys that have supported me. So I'm like, all right, let's go. Anyways, I got there and that was the first one. I was looking for the rod ends and I was like, hey, do you have any Traxxas rod ends? And he was like, we don't have any Traxxas hop up parts. And I'm like, really?
Whoa.
Like, that's kind of like weird. And
it's a staple.
So,
like it's a staple in this hobby.
So I was just like, you know, okay. And then he was trying to say something that Traxxas was giving them a hard time because they had to have like a certain amount of like, they had to purchase a certain amount to continue keeping their account or something along those lines. I don't know what, I couldn't really remember because I didn't talk to JJ. I talked to the guy running his shop. So, yeah, I just was like, man, this is sad. Like from what this went to like what it is now, it's just, I hope he stays afloat with everything going on. But I wouldn't be surprised if I saw, you know, and like I said, this not being ill will, I'm just saying based on just the way everything's going, I wouldn't be surprised if he has to close shop.
Damn.
Yeah, because during COVID, he actually didn't have a shop. It was I don't know if he was like the Nostradamus of, you know, what was going on, but like 6 months before COVID happened, he was like, I'm getting out of he goes, the lease is up on my current building. I don't like the landowner or the building owner. I'm out. And he was like, I'm in the middle. I'm going to have to find something again. So you guys got to bear with me. He moved everything out of there and into like storage or his garage. And because I remember I had to go down to actually his place of work to purchase my SCX. Was that the SCX 10-3? It was either the 3 or the Capra or both. I remember I think it was the Capra. I had to go to his actual place of business to pick it up. And like I could, you know, it was just crazy. And then all of a sudden we were talking about that. I was like, how did you know that this was going to happen? Because if you didn't jump ship when you did with your building, I said you probably would have got hosed because COVID would have happened. You wouldn't be getting in all the traffic and you would have been stuck with that monster payment.
That first place, that was the one where he was doing the drag racing and stuff, right? Okay.
Yes. And the lady hated that we did that there. So that's part of why he wanted to get out of there.
Yeah. That's understandable. Well, Chris, do you want to go over the Bigfoot run really quick and kind of give that a quick plug for the locals that might be listening?
Yeah. And you know, this applies to any of the guys in Seattle, or if Adam really wants to make the drive up to Washington, it's July 18th through 19th. It's called the Bigfoot Run. I want to say it's going on its 5th or 6th year now. But it's sponsored by RC 4-Wheel Drive. And we've got, you know, there's other people, Northwest Scale Designs, Kenny's Crap, RC Plate Shop, Twisted, Merchant Metal Fab has donated stuff. Hooked Hobbies, which is a small hobby shop in Longview, has donated stuff. But it's a family friendly event. It's basically like 3 days of camping, kind of like a pro line in a sense that they've got different events. They've got like, truck pulls. They've got kind of a like a hill climb event of sorts. They've got kind of a monster truck day. And then the biggest day is essentially that Sunday, and it's a team competition of sorts. 150 gates. I was up there a couple weeks ago. It's up in Cougar, Washington, which is just a little bit south of Mount St. Helens, which is a really beautiful woodsy area. But we basically have set up like roughly 200 gates in the woods, and it's a team, kind of a 3-man team type event, although it's not necessarily limited. But the idea is that you work together to get through the course, and not that you can't use hand of God, but in the spirit of everything, there's no hand of God. You're supposed to use winches and tow straps and other means to kind of get your fellow drivers through the course.
That's cool. Those are the most, I love events like that.
Yeah. And so there's
so
raffle
fun.
prizes. They've donated a ton of stuff. RC 4-wheel drive usually sends a bunch of stuff. There's gift bags. They have raffle tickets that they give out to the participants. And I went for the first time last year, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I haven't been in years past, just because I had so much fun. I went with our old man crew. We had took an easy up and kind of ran through the course, but they have scale building competition. So there's somebody built, I don't know if you're on that page, Jay, if you saw photos, but somebody built like a huge lookout tower. People have done campgrounds and different scale buildings, garages and stuff that you can do, kind of like the scale city that Proline does, where you can, photo opportunities and stuff like that. So there's a contest in a little jar that people are, you can vote for the best, like scale building for the event. But it's just a super laid back, meant to be fun weekend in the middle of the woods. And like I said, it's the weekend of the where'd it go? July 18th. Where'd it go?
Is there an entry fee for this one?
No, totally
Really?
free. The campground is there's a cost of the campground to stay.
Right.
There's a potluck or barbecue Friday night. Chris Hartstern, which is he's the organizer. I think it's going to be his last year doing it. He's getting ready to move away. So it may actually end up becoming mine and Kenny's event. I'm kind of still feeling it out going forward. We'll see. I think Kenny might be the one to more spearhead it, but yeah, it's just a fun, fun kind of geared towards scale crawlers. But I mean, people came last year with, comp style trucks and whatnot. So, we're not gonna turn anybody away.
Right.
But it's just a super laid back, event. We got permission from the forestry department to be there, and just a super fun, laid back, gate run with your buddies. And I'm looking forward to going. We went up last weekend, 2 weeks ago, and cleared some trails and cut down some branches and bushes and stuff, and kind of ran through tentatively where the course was going to go. So got kind of a chance to see what that's all about. Nice. It's warm, so it's middle of summer. Weather's usually really good, so sunscreen, hats, that kind of stuff. But it's you can find, if you go on Facebook and just search Bigfoot Run 2025. Right now it's a public page, and I'm looking at it now. It's 882 members. So I'm hoping not all 882 show up, because that would be massive. But I want to say last year, I think there was well over 200 people that came out last year. It was a pretty big deal. Awesome. So it's a good time for sure. And the Northwest, there's we have comps and stuff like that up here. There's not really many we're not fortunate enough to be in California with like your pro lines and your,
there's
axial
not many
fests and
events
stuff.
like what you guys are doing up here.
Yeah. And so, Chris takes it all on himself. He absorbs all that cost. He doesn't ask for any money. It's literally, donations. He for the kids, he hides a Bigfoot, a little like plastic Bigfoot figure in the woods. I want to say the person who finds it, I think this year that's an SCX 24. I want to say.
Cool.
And then I want to say that he just posted up a picture of, I think he got his hands on a base camp. I don't know if it was donated or if he bought it or whatnot, but I want to say one of the prizes is a base camp, SCX base
That's
camp.
awesome. Right on.
So yeah, it's super, super fun event. Definitely geared towards, towards family and having a good time. Like I said, there's stuff for the kids too. So that's cool to see. There was a ton of kids that came up last year and did it. So it's a really cool, laid back weekend event. Like I said, the highlight is more on that Sunday with the gate challenge, and the trail run, but it's pretty good. If people can make it out. I know Jay, you talked about coming down. I'm hoping we can get Haley to come. It would be really cool to have a celebrities, come out and check it out and get some promotion on it as well. And
it would be fantastic to have there. All of her stuff looks so good.
Yeah, and I think she would. Yeah, and I think she would really enjoy. I think she would really enjoy it. And for the most part, I don't know everybody. I'm pretty plugged into the community, but I think most everyone's pretty laid back. Most of the people down here in the Northwest and Oregon, Washington are pretty chill. And there's not a ton of we kind of weed out the the attitude and we're not afraid to put people in check, but
yeah,
you really don't have to. It's really nice.
That's awesome. Well, Adam, did you want to cover there's not a whole lot of new releases or anything going on right now, but AMain, their house brand Upgrade RC had dropped some new LED lights, and I was going to screen share that so that Adam's oops, sorry, one sec. I'll have to edit that out.
No, it's okay. That's
Okay,
what I had to
there you
close
go.
out when I had my glitch. Yeah, it looks like they're coming out with some new light bars. You got a couple that are the double row. A lot of them are the single. I haven't put any. My hands haven't been on them yet, so I haven't been able to check them out. But I mean, from what I'm seeing, they look like really great quality parts. I think it's just gonna be time will tell what these will fit and how bright they are. So I'm hoping to see a little more out of this, but the light bars seem to still be, it's like one of those things that, everyone geeks out on lights. So when you got another opportunity, another brand that's releasing them, making it more readily available, we'll see. Kind of like how like My Trick RC has their whole line on everything.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if how much plug and play this is, because everything seems to be like they all have like receiver plugs on them. So plug it right in, and if you can program whatever channel that is to a switch on your remote, you'll be able to turn them on without having to like lift up the body or reach underneath for something. So
yeah,
but yeah,
right on.
I wish
to expand their stuff.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I don't know if I've mentioned this on the show before, but I know Upgrade is now becoming another house brand for AMain. So
Yeah.
you'll start seeing, more and more parts out of them.
That's cool. Well, guys, we should probably get jamming here. Anybody have any like final thoughts or anything like that you'd like to
buy local, support local?
Yes.
If there's nothing else you take away from it.
Well, I definitely liked you guys inviting me and everything, and honestly, I'd like to do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great having you.
Maybe we have a part 2, can go further into some of these conversations, because I know this one went probably almost one of the longer episodes we've done.
I had a feeling though, like,
well, that's what happens when Travis isn't here to like give you the big like coat hook and pull you off.
I was gonna say there's no
I was
lanes.
trying to be like good about like moving on from, but like there's just opportunities like this where you get to speak to somebody who everybody deals with, for the most part, somebody like Kenny, but nobody really knows what they go through on the back end of things, you know? And
Yeah.
so I just had a feeling like this is going to be one of those, you know, episodes where there's going to be a lot of like really good, interesting information and stuff, and just a good conversation to be had about all this. So no, I appreciate your guys' time very much. You know, Chris and Kenny, thank you guys so much for coming on. It was awesome. Kenny, I would love to make one more trip down there before it gets closed up. I'll do everything I possibly can.
You got
to
till
maybe
Sunday,
cruise
bud.
down Friday or something and maybe make it happen. So I don't know what your work schedule's like, Chris. I don't know if you'd be able to sneak away to hang for a little bit, but
Totally.
I'm
I'll make time.
Okay.
If you're making the trip, I'm making the time.
Okay.
I promise.
Sounds good.
I
Well,
promise.
guys, thank you again.
Appreciate
it. And
Jay, good to see you again. Adam, good to see you.
guys
see you.
too.
Have a good
Everyone,
night.
thank you for sticking with us. It was a long one, and we'll catch you next time.